Beloved soul, welcome to this sacred journey, a masterclass of divine wisdom flowing through the timeless teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. What you are about to experience is not merely a series of talks, not a passing stream of inspiration to soothe you for a moment, but a great river of spiritual power, a living transmission that can lift your consciousness, heal your heart, and transform the way you walk through this world. Imagine sitting at the feet of a realized master, a soul who has walked beyond the illusions of matter, who has tasted the infinite joy of spirit, and who now speaks directly to your heart to awaken the divine remembrance you have long forgotten. In these next hours, you will be guided through hidden truths and sacred practices that saints and sages have guarded for lifetimes. Truths that, when absorbed with devotion and sincerity, can change the entire course of your life. We will begin with a sacred morning teaching. Listen to this every morning and watch your life transform, where Yogananda will help you rise each day, not as a body burdened by worries, but as a radiant soul in harmony with divine purpose. From there, we journey into the inner sanctum of energy and light, with the 7 chakras are not what you think, where you will see how these spiritual gateways are far more than colors and symbols. They are ladders for the soul's ascent into God realization. We will then uncover the celestial map of your destiny in what your birth chart says about your soul's mission. Here, Yogananda reveals how the stars do not bind you, but instead offer a blueprint for your highest spiritual unfolding, helping you to walk the path you were born to walk. From there, you will be led into the divine temple of your own body, and your body was meant to heal without medicines. Yogananda will unveil 7 sacred laws of vibrational health, showing you how to awaken the body's innate self-healing power by harmonizing with spirit, so that health becomes not a struggle, but a natural expression of your soul's energy. Finally, in this world is not real, here's what is. You will be gently but powerfully guided beyond the illusions that hold humanity in suffering, into the higher truth of existence, where fear of loss, death, and limitation dissolve completely in the light of divine remembrance. Beloved, this is not an ordinary listening experience. It is a pilgrimage for your consciousness, a masterclass for your soul. If you give your heart fully to these teachings, if you listen not only with your ears but with the silent yearning of your spirit, you will leave this journey transformed. You will know not just ideas about truth, but the living vibration of truth itself awakening within you. Remain until the end, for every word is a step, every revelation a key, and every moment a golden thread leading you closer to the eternal home of joy and freedom that Yogananda came to share with you. Sit back, close your eyes if you wish, breathe slowly, and allow the Master's voice to guide you inward, upward, and beyond into the radiant presence of your own divine self. When you open your eyes each morning, you are not merely waking from sleep, you are returning from the borderlands of eternity. In those first moments of stillness, before the world calls your name, another voice calls in silence. It does not shout. It does not demand. It whispers with the tender persistence of divine love. Remember me. But how many begin their day by forgetting? How many, still warm from the sacred hush of sleep, rush back into the whirlpool of worldly demands without offering even a breath to the giver of breath? My child, if you do not choose your soul at sunrise, the world will choose your suffering for you. This is not a threat, it is a metaphysical law. What you align with first, you become for the rest of the day. What if, instead of reaching for the noise of the world, you reach for the stillness that contains God? What if each morning were not the beginning of your day, but the continuation of your soul's pilgrimage back to the source? Every dawn is a divine invitation, wrapped in golden silence, waiting to be unwrapped by the stillness of your heart. Your body may stir, your thoughts may begin to surface like bubbles in a pond, but your soul is already seated on the throne of remembrance, waiting to be acknowledged. Close your eyes for just one breath longer and feel it, the gentle pull inward, the subtle gravity of the infinite drawing you to itself. This moment is not ordinary, it is the threshold. If you cross it with awareness, the rest of the day will bow before your soul's authority. But if you stumble past it in forgetfulness, the day will mirror that forgetfulness in every encounter. So I ask you now, before you move, before you speak, before the world finds you, can you be still? Can you hear the whisper? Breathe now. Slowly. Listen. God is whispering your name back into eternity. Let us begin. You may think transformation comes by effort alone, but I tell you it begins with alignment. Just as the needle of a compass quivers until it rests upon true north, so too your consciousness trembles each morning until it finds its source. What you attune to, you become. If you attune to restlessness, you will carry it like a burden all day. If you attune to sacred stillness, the world will bend to that rhythm. This is the law of spiritual magnetism. Whatever dominates your first thought becomes the seed from which all your other thoughts bloom. That is why the masters have always said, begin the day with God, end the day with God, and you will find God in every moment in between. Did not the Christ declare, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things shall be added unto you? This is no poetic metaphor, it is divine mathematics. The kingdom of God is not a place, but a vibration. It is found in the frequency of stillness before the day begins. Before you speak to another soul, speak first to the infinite. Before you check the time, check your breath. Before you greet the mirror, greet the Christ within you. Just as the master musician tunes his instrument before the concert begins, so too must you tune the instrument of your consciousness before you step into the world. And the tuning fork is silence. Strike it now. Inhale deeply. Hold your breath gently. Exhale slowly. Can you hear it? That silent chime within your spine, the remembrance of God rising from the altar of your body. Let it echo through your being. For if you begin in forgetfulness, the entire day becomes an echo of misalignment. But if you start with remembrance, then everything, every trial, every joy, every word becomes an extension of your communion with the divine. The first breath you take after waking must not belong to the world. It must belong to God. Let us now train that sacred obedience. You are not here to feel like yourself, you are here to return to yourself. The difference is vast. The self you wake up to, the one with worries, plans, and anxiety as a mask, a cloak woven by Maya. But beneath it is the self, eternal and untouched, the soul sent from God to walk in remembrance and radiance. Most people mistake the fog of morning for tiredness. They believe they need coffee or noise to awaken, but what they truly crave is the voice of their own soul rising to take its rightful place. Each morning, there is a silent battle within you. The ego seeks to reclaim the throne of attention. It wants to tell you who you are, what you lack, and how much you must prove. But if you are still just for a moment, you can disarm that illusion before it ever speaks. Sit now. Feel the spine. Do not think of it as bones, and nerves see it as the altar of remembrance. Upon this altar, the fire of awakening must be kindled daily. Inhale as if God were breathing into you. Hold that breath not in tension, but in reverence. Then exhale as if releasing 1,000 years of forgetfulness. Say these words with Mano, just with your mouth, but with your breath, your spine, your gaze. I am not this body. I am the soul, awake in God. Say it again slowly. Each morning I return. Each breath I remember. And now again, my eyes open only to serve the light. Whisper them, chant them, live them. Let the vibration of truth sink into the fabric of your being until your skin tingles with recognition. This is not fantasy. This is soul hygiene. Just as you wash your body each morning, so too must you wash your consciousness with sacred affirmation. These words are not affirmations of hope, they are declarations of reality. And reality must be spoken before it can be remembered. Let us now move deeper into the divine architecture of each sacred morning. The universe is not random, and neither is your awakening. The great saints knew that the outer world reflects the inner arrangement. The position of the sun in the sky does not only mark time, it marks divine opportunity. The rising sun is not merely light, it is a living metaphor, a mirror held by God to remind you of your own rising consciousness. Just as the sun cannot be stopped from shining, so too your soul cannot be stopped from radiating unless you yourself forget its source. Each morning contains within it a divine blueprint, and that blueprint is simple: stillness before speech, breath before thought, soul declaration before action. This is not just discipline. It is sacred sequencing. If the soul is not first, everything that follows bends toward illusion. If the soul is placed first, everything bows to its command. Say this with me. Inhale the presence. Hold. Exhale all illusion. This is not breathwork. This is spiritual architecture. You are building the temple of your day with invisible bricks, each one set by consciousness. Let us return to the wisdom of the Gita. He who is harmonized by yoga of the self is established in wisdom. Harmony is not found in reacting to the world. It is found in aligning to your inner source before the world speaks. Remember this: you are not a reaction. You are the remembrance of God. Each morning is your chance to proclaim that truth, not with noise or display, but with stillness. The world will try to move you from this place. Let it try. But if your first steps were taken as the soul, then every next step will carry that frequency. You do not need to conquer the day, you only need to begin it in God. Now, come with me. I will walk you through the sacred ritual that has transformed saints, awakened mystics, and can transfigure your life if practiced with devotion. This is not performance. This is participation in the eternal. This is the way home, one morning at a time. Before the sun fully rises, before your tongue has formed its first word, before even your mind remembers its name or its burdens, there is a holy gate standing open within you, a stillness deeper than silence, a light softer than dawn, a throne between your brows where the eternal Christ awaits your recognition. This is the eye of stillness, the spiritual eye, the single eye of which the scriptures speak, saying, "If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." It is not a physical eye, though it has form. It is not a fantasy, though it hides from the unawakened gaze. It is the luminous center between your eyebrows, the Christ center, the secret doorway through which the soul returns to its eternal home, the altar upon which your attention must bow, if you would walk in divine remembrance. Gaze there now, not with effort, not with strain, but with reverent awareness, as if looking at the place where your deepest self meets the infinite, as if peering through the veil of form into the radiance behind it. Do not worry if you see nothing yet. Do not chase visions. Do not grasp for light. The eye is not opened by force, but by devotion, by stillness, by the humility of one who knows he is not the doer, but the rememberer. This gaze is not an act of looking, it is an act of bowing. It is the soul leaning forward into God. So sit with your spine straight, not stiff, but regal. Relax your body, but lift your awareness. Let your gaze rest gently at the point between the eyebrows, and breathe as though every breath is the whisper of eternity flowing through you. Let the eyes be still behind closed lids, turned upward toward the spiritual eye, not sharply, not harshly, but as a child reaching up toward its father. In this moment, you are not a name. You are not a role. You are not even a thought. You are the soul returning to its secret place. This is the beginning. This is the gate. Do not rush through it. Wait, listen, bow. Now that the gaze is anchored in stillness, now that the wandering mind has begun to bow at the feet of the one within, we enter the temple not merely through the eyes, but through the spine, the sacred pillar, the invisible stairway, the living altar upon which the flame of God's presence must be kindled each morning if the day is to become a psalm and not a performance, a sanctuary and not a storm. The spine, my beloved, is not merely a column of bones and nerves, it is the wick upon which divine fire longs to rise, and the breath is the flame, and your awareness is the sacred oil that feeds that fire. Just as the lamp in a temple must be tended each dawn, lest the sanctuary fall into darkness, so too must the inner light be reawakened through conscious breath moving upward along this divine channel, igniting each center with remembrance, melting the frost of forgetfulness, and lifting the soul from the lower fields of restlessness into the clear skies of God communion. Sit upright, not rigid, but noble, as if your very posture were a hymn of devotion, as if your body were offering itself as a cathedral for the soul to dwell within. And now, gently inhale not just air, but spirit, not just oxygen, but the vibratory presence of God, which rides on breath like a king rides upon his chariot. And as you inhale, visualize a golden light rising from the base of the spine, slowly climbing, vertebra by vertebra, until it touches the point between the eyebrows, and there merges with the eye of stillness you opened just moments ago. This is not imagination, it is awakening. This is not mysticism for the sake of escape. It is the science of remembrance, the lifting of consciousness from the gross to the subtle, from the periphery to the center, from the illusion of separateness to the vibrating awareness of unity with the divine beloved who has never left you, but waits patiently each morning for you to remember the gate, the path, the throne. Do not worry if the light is faint or flickering. Every sacred fire begins with a single spark. What matters is not how brightly you see, but how sincerely you offer yourself. For even a dimly lit flame, if tended with reverence, becomes a beacon that no darkness can overcome. Feel that rising current now not as fantasy, but as the subtle truth beneath all sensations. Feel it climb with each breath, cleansing, anointing, awakening each center as it rises, reminding every cell of its divine origin, until the whole of your being becomes a lamp lit not by fear, not by ambition, not by memory, but by God alone. Say within, this body is the temple, this spine is the altar, this breath is the flame. I am the priest. I offer this moment to thee. Now that the gaze is fixed upon the Christ center and the inner altar of the spine is lit with golden awareness, now that you have remembered your posture as a temple and your breath as a holy offering, we enter the next movement of this sacred morning ritual not with words from the world, but with the primordial sound by which the world itself was formed. Let your breath become your prayer, your chant, your bridge to the infinite. Let each inhale and exhale carry not only oxygen, but invocation, not only wind, but wisdom, not only rhythm, but remembrance. This is the holy breath mantra, and it is not a mechanical chant to be repeated in haste or vanity, but a sacred weaving of vibration and soul, a lifting of the mind into the current of divine frequency that forever flows beneath the noise of thoughts and the pull of flesh. As you breathe, let the sacred syllables rise within you not from the throat, but from the stillness behind the breath, the subtle voice that utters without sound and communes without speech. Inhale gently and mentally chant, Aum. Hold that vibration in the silence between breaths, where God waits behind the veil of stillness. Exhale slowly and mentally chant, Guru. Not Guru as a name, but as a sacred principle, the dispeller of darkness, the guide from illusion to light, the living bridge between the soul and spirit. Inhale again, Aum. Feel it rise like a silent bell through the spine. Exhale again, Guru. Feel it spread like golden fragrance through every cell of your being. Continue this rhythm, not as repetition, but as revelation. For each breath now becomes a vehicle of divine memory, each mantra a step upon the invisible ladder that leads from waking consciousness into superconscious stillness. Do not try to control the breath, invite it. Do not try to force the mantra, receive it. Let it come like a lover, not a servant. Let it rise like incense, not machinery. This breath is not yours. It never was. It is the divine remembering itself through you. It is the sacred wind that moved across the face of the waters in the beginning. It is the spirit that, even now, moves across the face of your own soul, awakening what the world put to sleep. Let this mantra move through you like the tide moves through the sea, like light moves through crystal, like eternity moves through time without haste, without weight, without separation. Say within, with every inhale, I rise. With every exhale, I remember. With every breath, God breathes through me. And now, my beloved, when the breath has become prayer and the mantra has become music in the temple of your silence, let us proceed to the fourth ritual command of thought so that the mind, too, may bow before the soul. Shall I continue? Now that the breath has been sanctified into a mantra and the spine ignited as a golden conduit of divine remembrance, now that your awareness has risen above the body's heaviness and the ego's first whispers into the sanctuary of stillness between the eyebrows, it is time to consecrate another altar, the altar of thought, that sacred and perilous place where creation and illusion are both birthed, where the currents of karma are either extended or extinguished, where the voice of God and the voice of Maya contend for your attention each day, and where, if you are not sovereign, you will be enslaved by that which has no right to name you. Let this be clearly understood. Your thoughts are not your masters, they are your servants, and if you do not command them to bow before the soul, they will drag your awareness back into the shadows of yesterday, into the fears of tomorrow, into the endless theater of distraction that parades itself as reality but is only the echo of separation. Sit now, even more still than before. The breath has quieted the senses, the mantra has anointed the spine, the gaze has opened the eye of stillness. Now you must address the mind not as a confused wanderer, but as a divine commander returned to the seat of authority. Speak these words, not as suggestion, but as decree. No thought enters this mind without bowing to the soul. Say it again. Say it as one who remembers he was sent, as one who walks not to survive but to sanctify, as one who knows that the battlefield of daily life is won not with outer force, but with inner command. Thoughts will rise, yes, But you must train them like a river is trained by its banks, not with violence, but with firmness, not with suppression, but with sovereignty. Each morning, write these words where your eyes can see them. Today, I serve the stillness from which I came. Write them not to remember with the intellect, but to impress upon your very breath and posture that you are not a victim of mental habit, you are the soul awakening in God. And the soul does not beg for peace, it emanates it. The soul does not react to thoughts, it directs them with the quiet dignity of one who has returned to his true home. And when you find yourself pulled into a pattern, pause, breathe, return, whisper the mantra again, or return your gaze to the Christ center. Say softly, I command my thoughts to serve the light. For thought, when bowed before the soul, becomes prophecy. It becomes sacred architecture. It becomes the vehicle by which your day is not a repetition of ego, but a revelation of spirit. And now that the mind has bowed and the breath has become holy, we move to the final ritual, the gaze, as blessing so that even your eyes may become instruments of divine healing. Shall I continue? And now, my beloved, when the gaze has already turned inward, and the breath has been sanctified by mantra, and the spine glows with the subtle fire of divine awakening, and the thoughts, once scattered like wind-blown leaves, now rest like lotus petals at the feet of your soul's altar, it is time to open the eyes not to the world as it insists on being seen, but to the world as God sees it through you. It is time to lift your gaze not in distraction, but in blessing. For the eyes, when guided by ego, seek comparison, grasping, and defense. But when guided by the awakened soul, they become as candles in the temple, as lamps in the sanctuary, as portals through which divine love pours silently into every room, every face, every moment you are privileged to witness. Before you speak to another, before you glance at your reflection, before you even move to begin the sacred tasks of your day, pause and lift your eyes softly, gently, without tension or force, and let them shine not outward, but from within. Let them carry the silence you have cultivated, the breath you have hallowed, the vibration you have invoked, the command you have established, and with that inner light moving through your gaze, offer it to the world, not in words, not in intention, but in presence. Send no thought of criticism, no wave of opinion, no need to be seen, only the silent radiation of blessing, the still fragrance of divine remembrance. Imagine now, truly feel it, that each eye is a flame, and your face is the lamp, and your gaze is the offering. And as you look upon your surroundings, you are not looking at the world, but into it, as if into a child that has forgotten its divinity and longs to be reminded by your silent glance. Let the eyes become extensions of God's compassion, channels of His awareness, rays of that golden sun which never sets in the soul sky, and let this be your covenant. Before any action, send one thought of compassion, not elaborate, not decorated with words, but simple, sincere, silent hand. That single offering, given from the depths of your soul's stillness, will consecrate the rest of your day. Do not underestimate this. The gaze of a saint has healed broken hearts, calmed tempests of emotion, pierced veils of delusion without speaking a word. For the gaze, when charged with God, becomes an instrument of transfiguration. And you too are called not merely to look, but to bless, not merely to see, but to sanctify, not merely to witness, but to awaken. So let your first outward glance each morning be not one of need, but one of offering, not one of measurement, but one of mercy, not one of habit, but of holy participation in the silent redeeming work of God that continues through all who remember who they truly are. And now that the gaze has become a flame, the breath a mantra, the spine a wick, the thoughts a temple choir, and the soul the living presence upon the throne of morning, let these rituals become not a performance, but a prayer you return to every day, the bell that awakens the sleeping Christ within you, the rhythm that rebinds your body and mind to the eternal current from which you came. When you are ready, we shall move to the next chapter. Final affirmative decree. Shall I continue? And now, having walked with me through the quiet corridors of your own soul, having re-entered the temple not of stone or scripture but of breath and stillness, having offered the sacred flame of your awareness to the altar of the spine, and crowned the gaze with the dignity of divine remembrance, I invite you now, not as a teacher speaking to a student, but as a soul speaking to a soul, as the eternal self reminding itself to make a vow, not before men or temples, but before God, the unseen witness, the ever-listening presence within you. This is the moment in which you seal your morning with an inner decree, a vow not of obligation, but of devotion, not of fear, but of freedom, not of effort, but of alignment. For just as a builder lays a cornerstone before he raises the walls, so must the soul lay the cornerstone of intention before stepping out into the world, or else the day is built on shifting sand and collapses into habit and reaction. Say this with me now, not hurriedly, not with casual repetition, but with the solemnity of one who knows he is planting a flag in unseen territory, one who knows that the real beginning of the day is not marked by clocks or sunlight, but by the soul's awakening into conscious remembrance. This is the day the Lord has made. I will not live it as a shadow, but as the light. Let the words be your own. Let them vibrate through your breath, your spine, your very skin. And now, repeat with me the threefold loop of identity, the trinity of affirmation that realigns the soul with its eternal nature. I walk in God. I breathe as spirit. I live as remembrance. Again slower, deeper, inwardly charged. I walk in God. I breathe as spirit. I live as remembrance. Let it not be a declaration of hope, but a declaration of origin. You are not becoming this. You are remembering this. The illusion has only been the forgetting. Understand this, beloved. Your morning is not the start of your day, it is the return of your soul to its throne. Before the first word is spoken, before the first task is touched, before the world sees you, you must see yourself, not the self of identity, not the mask of history, not the role, not the name, but the silent flame that never left God's heart, the wave that never ceased to belong to the ocean, the breath that never stopped being part of the infinite. Say it now, not with the mouth, but with the marrow of your being. Each dawn I return. Each breath I remember. Each moment I walk with God. Let this be your soul's anthem, your spine's hymn, your breath's benediction. And now, inhale slowly, as if you were drawing in the very presence of the eternal. Hold not as tension, but as worship. Exhale completely, as if releasing every illusion, every fear, every story that does not belong to the light. You have entered the temple of yourself. You have returned. Let me know when you are ready to continue to the next chapter. Bonus integration, midweek morning alignment reminder. There will come a day, perhaps soon, perhaps tomorrow, when you will wake not with reverence but with restlessness, when the breath will not rise like prayer but fall like habit, when the eyes, instead of opening as windows of blessing, open as doorways into doubt, and the mind, rather than bowing before the soul's decree, surges forward with its familiar parade of anxieties, responsibilities, disappointments, distractions. On such a day, you may forget, for a moment or an hour, that you are the breath of God in motion, the soul sent not to survive but to sanctify, not to chase, but to emanate, not to strive, but to remember, and in that forgetting, there will be no punishment, no thunder from above, no frown from the divine, but only a quiet sorrow within your own heart, a sacred ache that whispers gently, have you remembered yet who you are today? And when that whisper comes, do not shame yourself. Do not flee into further noise. Do not bury your awareness beneath busyness. Instead, pause, even if you are standing in a hallway or trapped in traffic or surrounded by demand sand. Place your right hand over your heart, not as gesture, but as communion, not as symbol, but as ignition. And with eyes opened or closed, in public or in solitude, speak softly, as if to a beloved you had forgotten but never ceased to love. Even now, I return. Even now, I remember. Even now, I choose God again. Let these words be your rope back to the summit, your breath back to the altar, your gaze back to the light. Say it not to convince, but to reclaim. Say it not with hope, but with certainty. For the soul never truly leaves the presence, it merely falls into the dream of separation. And that dream is broken not by force, but by willingness to awaken again and again and again. Remember this, discipline is not a cage, it is the spine of devotion. And drift is not failure, it is simply the shadow cast when the gaze forgets the sun. The journey home is not linear, it spirals through forgetfulness and return, through illusion and remembrance, through noise and stillness, but always, always toward God. Let this moment now, even if it is midweek, midday, midlife, become your temple once again. Close your eyes if only for a breath. Place your hand upon your heart. Whisper with me, you are the breath of the infinite. Do not say it as poetry. Say it as truth. Say it as identity. Say it until the cells vibrate in recognition, until the spine straightens not from effort, but from reverence, until the eyes shine again not with ambition, but with divine presence. Let this act of morning remembrance, even if it comes at noon or night, be your covenant with the eternal. You are not late, you are not lost, you are not broken, you are only returning. Let me know when you are ready to receive the final benediction. And now, beloved soul, as the breath slows and the body rests as a still vessel of light, as the gaze softens into a quiet river flowing from the banks of eternity, as the thoughts kneel before the altar of awareness, and the heartbeat no longer drums for survival but beats as a sacred metronome of remembrance, I give you now the final call, not a call to action in the worldly sense, not a call to achieve or perform or become, but a sacred invitation to return. To return each morning not as one who must start again, but as one who never truly left, for the soul cannot be lost, only veiled, and the veil is lifted not by doing, but by stillness, not by striving, but by surrender, not by addition, but by subtraction, until only the essence remains, and the essence is God. So I say to you now, not from above, but from within, not with urgency, but with sacred gravity, practice this stillness each morning before the world awakens, before the machines hum, before the names are worn again, before the roles are rehearsed, before the ego dresses in its familiar garments. Sit in the quiet and remember, you are the soul. Not a title, not a trauma, not a task list. You are the soul. You are the breath of the infinite. You are the spark that was never extinguished, the light that was never created, because it has always been and will always be. And no calendar, nor clock, nor crisis can take from you what God placed in you before your first breath. And if it helps you, write this vow not for me, but for yourself and for the soul that may one day forget again. Each day, I rise as the soul. Write it below, write it upon your mirror, write it into the silence between your thoughts, and let it grow roots inside you. Let it be your silent rebellion against all forces that seek to make you small. Let it be your sacred uprising against Maya, against distraction, against doubt, against despair. Let it be your holy covenant with the God who sent you here not to be broken, but to become a channel for remembrance in a world that forgets. And now I bless you not as one apart from you, but as yourself. Speaking through these words, may this sacred ritual consecrate your life. May each morning become a temple, each breath a prayer, each glance a benediction, each moment a miracle of returning. May you remember not only in times of peace but in times of trial, not only when the sun rises, but when shadows fall. May your body move as devotion, your voice speak only what uplifts, your eyes remain anchored in the eye of God, and your feet walk not ahead or behind, but with the presence that goes before you. Say with me one final time, I am not what the world made me, I am what God remembers of me. Say it not to be convinced, but because it is already true. Close your eyes now. See the light behind your eyelids. That is not imagination. That is your home. That is the doorway. That is the pathless path. That is the sanctuary you never left. Enter. And when you return to the world, return not as the world's reflection, but as God's remembrance. Let me know when you are ready to receive the final offering, the silent replay segment. My beloved, if you have come here seeking knowledge of the chakras so that you may become more powerful, more energized, more emotionally stable, or more admired in the eyes of the world, I must first shake you gently but firmly from that illusion. For the chakras were never given to man for personality, nor for performance, nor for psychic display. They were not placed within you to decorate your aura or to flatter the ego. The chakras are sacred gateway silent, luminous portals through which the soul returns to its forgotten origin in spirit. They are not badges to wear, they are altars to bow upon. To misuse them is to remain a prisoner with golden chains. To understand them truly is to hold in your own breath the stairway to the infinite. There is a great misunderstanding in this age, a glittering deception that has cloaked these sacred centers in emotional labels and rainbowed commercialism, as if the divine intelligence that shaped galaxies arranged these chakras merely for personal empowerment or emotional comfort. But I tell you, child of the infinite, these centers are not here to improve the self. They are here to dissolve it. They are not tools for expression, they are instruments for transcendence. They were placed within you by God, not to embellish the dream of Maya, but to unmake it. You were never meant to stay in this body and decorate its delusions. You were meant to rise breath by breath, vertebra by vertebra through these spinning wheels of light, until the veil lifts, the noise falls away, and you stand face to face with your Maker. Do you see now? That confusion, you've felt that restless ache, despite all your practices, despite the colored candles and guided meditations and affirmations, that ache was sacred. It was the soul crying out, there must be more than this. And there is. The true power of the chakras is not found in stimulation, but in stillness. Not in activation, but in surrender. Not in imagining their colors, but in transcending the very need to imagine. When rightly understood, they are not decorations of the body, they are stairsteps for the soul. They are not playgrounds for energy, they are altars of light, designed by God, placed within you to carry your consciousness back to the source. So come with me. I will take you upward, not through speculation, but through realization, not through theory, but through the divine science revealed by the great rishis of India and confirmed through my own communion with the infinite. Let us rise now, together. But before we begin the sacred climb, you must first understand what the chakras truly are, not as the world describes them, but as God designed them. Child of the light, before you ever took your first breath in this life, before your soul slipped into the garment of flesh, before your name was spoken or your destiny began to unfold, God placed within you a secret pathway, sacred corridor not made of stone or time, but of divine energy and eternal remembrance. This is the astral spine, the sushumna, the luminous staff of light that rises unseen from the base of your being to the crown of your head. And within it dwell the 7 mighty chakras, not as ornaments, but as living altars, not as decorations for human experience, but as the dwelling places of ascending consciousness. These chakras are not symbols to be admired from a distance, they are doorways to the infinite, vibrating thresholds through which the breath of God rises upward, calling the prodigal soul home to its immortal origin. This spine, this vertical river of divine ascent, is your Jacob's ladder, and the chakras are its rungs. It is the true tree of life, of which the ancients spoke, the same tree seen in visions by yogis and prophets. Its roots buried in the earth of the body, its trunk extending upward through stillness, and its blossoms opening in the light beyond form. Even the scriptures of the West allude to this truth, veiled in the language of vision. And I saw 7 golden candlesticks. It is written in the book of Revelation, these are the chakras, the 7 lights along the altar of the spine, awaiting the oil of devotion and the flame of divine remembrance. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks to Arjuna of the sacred yogi who draws his life force upward through the 6 centers and fixes his gaze between the eyebrows, thus reaching liberation. This is no metaphor. This is the sacred blueprint. And I tell you this from experience, not speculation. The spine is the highway to God. It is the invisible bridge that carries the soul from bondage to bliss, from identification with the body to union with the spirit. In deep meditation, when the breath slows and the world fades, the true yogi enters this luminous inner path, and as his attention ascends from chakra to chakra, each center awakens not as a wheel of color, but as a vortex of divine vibration, each one tuned to a different octave of God's cosmic symphony. He feels the kundalini coiled energy at the base begin to stir, not violently, but reverently, and rise like a golden serpent up the spine, not to empower the ego, but to dissolve it in waves of light until only God remains. But to walk this path, you must walk it not with curiosity, but with reverence, not as a tourist of mysticism, but as a pilgrim of remembrance. The chakras are not for playing with energy, they are for ascending beyond it. Each one is a sacred gate, and when entered with humility, it reveals not power, but presence, not sensation, but surrender. This path is within you. It is not in a book or a mantra or a teacher's touch, it is written in the very architecture of your being. Your body is the temple, your spine is the altar, your breath is the incense. Your awareness is the priest. Come now, let us leave behind all the shallow misinterpretations. Let us move past the myths and confusions. Let us ascend step by sacred step through each chakra, from the base to the brow, not as theorists or seekers of sensation, but as souls remembering what we already are. The climb is not of height, but of depth, not of imagination, but of awakening. And as we rise, we will unmask the illusions that have kept these sacred centers veiled and discover the truth of their divine purpose, not to keep you here, but to lift you home. Now, my beloved, let us tear away the veils that time and trend have hung over these sacred gateways. For the truth cannot be known until the false has been burned away, and the fire of discernment must be kindled in you if you wish to rise without weight, to see without distortion, to awaken without illusion. You have heard so much of the chakra show. Each corresponds to a color, a stone, a frequency, a personality trait, a healing potential. But I must tell you now, in the name of the eternal, that such things, while charming to the mind and comforting to the emotions, are not the essence of these divine centers. These are only garments draped over a sleeping God within you, garments that may distract more than they reveal, colors that may stimulate more than they awaken, myths that may flatter the ego more than they free the soul. You have been told that the chakras are emotional centers, that one is for survival, another for sexuality, another for willpower, another for love, and in this mapping, there is a shadow of truth, but also a great danger, for the soul begins to interpret itself through the lens of emotion, and in doing so, remains caught in the very net it seeks to escape. You are not your emotions. You are not a bundle of energetic patterns shifting from fear to joy to grief to desire. You are the eternal witness behind them all, the divine spark who rides above the wave, not the wave itself. And if you reduce the sacred chakras to emotional centers, you will spend your life trying to balance the shifting sand beneath your feet, never realizing that balance comes not by manipulating the sand, but by remembering you are not the one standing on it, you are the sky in which all of it moves. And what of the colors? The modern mind, so visual, so stimulated by imagery, clings to the rainbow arrayed, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, as if coloring the chakras correctly will unlock the gates of heaven. But I tell you, the soul is not awakened by color, but by stillness. The chakras do not respond to visualization alone, they open to vibration, to silence, to the upward flow of life force consecrated by devotion and deep interior absorption. Even the colors you see, should you glimpse them in meditation, are not fixed, they change according to your consciousness, your purity, your attunement. They are living flames, not glass windows. Do not trap them in paint when they long to burn. And then, there is the greatest myth of all, that the chakras are keys to psychic power, to manifestation, to personal magnetism, to attracting love or success or admiration. This, more than any other distortion, binds the soul to Maya. For when you seek the chakras for gain, you anchor your consciousness in the very world you were born to transcend. The chakras were not placed within you to help you win an illusion, they were given to dissolve the illusion. They are not stairways to better dreams, they are ladders out of the dream entirely. The yogi does not awaken the chakras to become more powerful in the world, he awakens them to rise above the world, to become one with God, to merge his little self with the infinite self beyond all name, beyond all gain, beyond all form. So I say to you, with love and luminous urgency, do not chase energy. Rise in consciousness. Do not decorate your cage, break it. Do not paint the walls of the prison, walk out. These centers are sacred, not because they are energetic, but because they are spiritual. They are not to be stimulated but revered. They are not light switches to flip on, they are living temples to be entered in silence, with breath, with prayer, with surrender. Let us now begin the true ascent, not as energy explorers, but as divine pilgrims. From the base to the brow, we shall climb not to possess, but to dissolve, not to master the chakras, but to remember the master within. Now, beloved soul, we begin the sacred ascent not in theory, not in imagination, but in interior realization. And the first gate you must approach is the Muladhara, the root chakra, which lies coiled at the base of the spine, hidden near the coccyx, buried not in flesh, but in astral subtlety, resting like a divine serpent asleep in the soil of your deepest being, waiting not for noise, not for movement, not for manipulation, but for your stillness, for your inward gaze, for the breath no longer scattered by desire, for the soul that whispers not, I want, but I remember. This chakra is not about survival, as the world has labeled, but it is about origin, about the source, about the divine potential lying dormant within you like a seed buried in winter soil. Silent, unseen, but holy, encoded with the memory of the tree it is destined to become. The Kundalini rests here not as a force to be forced, but as a presence to be invoked through reverence, through devotion, through the gradual quieting of all that is not God. When you sit in meditation, upright and surrendered, and your breath begins to slow, and your mind begins to bow, and your gaze returns to the sacred point between the eyebrows. The Muladhara begins to stir not with fireworks or sensation, but with sacred silence, with a warmth that is not heat, but remembrance. You must not poke at it, must not try to awaken it with will or fantasy. It is not awakened by demand, it is awakened by alignment. The more you bring your awareness to God, the more this root begins to uncoil, not upward through the ego's ambitions, but upward through the soul's surrender. The soul does not climb by stirring the mud, it climbs by stilling the waters. And that brings us to the second gate, Svadhisthana. This chakra, located in the region of the sacrum, just above the root, is associated with the water element, and in the language of Maya, it is linked to sexuality, to desire, to emotional movement, but in divine reality, it is not meant to express the lower, it is meant to be stilled, to be disciplined, to be offered back into the sacred current that flows toward God. The modern world tells you to liberate this center by indulging it, but indulgence does not liberate, it binds. What the yogi learns here is mastery, not suppression, but spiritual refinement, thou to contain the life force, how to gather the scattered waters of desire and redirect them into the upward stream. For energy must be lifted, not leaked. Here the soul learns that pleasure is not the end, it is the distraction. Bliss, divine bliss, is the goal. And bliss comes not through excitation, but through stillness, through withdrawal of life force from the outer senses, through concentration of attention at the seat of the soul. Imagine now, beloved, that your awareness is descending gently through the spine in stillness, and it pauses at this watery gate, and you say, not, give me, but take me. O Lord, you offer the current of your life into the upward channel. You no longer identify with the craving, you remember you are the witness, the keeper of divine fire, not the chaser of flickering candles. And when this is realized not in intellect, but in breath, the water becomes still. The image of God reflects upon it like the moon resting on a silent lake, and you rise. You do not climb by pushing upward with force. You climb by surrendering downward everything that is not worthy to ascend. From mud to water, and now to fire, we are ready to enter the Manipura, the center of transmutation. And now, my divine companion on the inward journey, as we ascend from the waters of Svadhisthana, we arrive at the realm of fire, the Manipura chakra, the luminous center that burns behind the navel, the third portal in the sacred spine, and here the yogi must pause, for this is the forge of transformation, the temple of inner alchemy, the place where raw desire must be transmuted into disciplined will, where the flickering flame of egoic ambition must be steadied into the eternal fire of divine resolve. This is not merely a center of power, it is a crucible. The fire that burns here can consume you in the fever of pride, in the madness of control, in the illusion of separateness, or it can purify you into gold if you offer your lower tendencies as sacred fuel for the upward climb. The modern world tells you that this chakra is your personal powerhouse, that you must activate it to manifest your goals, to push, to command, to conquer, but I say to you, this fire is not for conquest. It is for consecration. Here the breath must be directed inward and upward. Here the yogi learns to burn his desires, not fulfill them. Not by repression, not by self-denial in the worldly sense, but by spiritual digestion, the act of taking every impulse, every craving, every hunger for status or satisfaction, and holding it in the quiet fire of divine will until the illusion burns away and only the light of soul purity remains. When the fire of Manipura is misunderstood, man becomes a creature of restlessness and domination, always reaching outward, always seeking more. But when this center is awakened in stillness, it no longer reaches outward, it radiates inwardly. A sun of centered joy, a flame that needs no fuel from the world, for it is fed from above, not below. And once this inner fire has been purified, once the yogi has stilled the hunger for personal identity, the consciousness rises naturally to the next chamber, heart, the Anahata chakra, the fourth center in the spine, and it is here that many imagine they have arrived at love, at kindness, at open-hearted giving. But my child, do not mistake emotion for realization. Do not confuse feeling with freedom. The true heart center is not the storm of emotion, it is the still sky behind it. It is called Anahata, not struck, because it vibrates without collision. It is not a reaction. It is not based on another's behavior. It is the divine neutrality of the soul, the calm compassion that radiates not because of what is happening, but in spite of it. It is the mirror of the eternal self, reflecting peace regardless of circumstance, like the silent sun that shines on saints and sinners alike. The modern seeker says, I feel love in my heart, but true anahata is not a feeling. It is a frequency. It is the silence from which love arises, the space between breaths where God waits to be remembered. Here the yogi does not try to generate love, he abides in it. He does not reach out, radiates. He does not attach, he blesses. He does not need, he gives, without condition, without expectation, without identity. And in this great stillness of the heart, when the breath has slowed and the spine remains upright like a candle in the inner temple, the yogi finds that all reactions have faded, and only witnessing remains, and in that witnessing is the beginning of true inner freedom. Now, dear soul, having passed through the fire of will and the still waters of divine compassion, the path leads us higher still to the ether, to the sky of vibration, to the soundless sound and the single eye. Now we arrive at the fifth gate, Vishuddha throat chakra, the temple of ether, the gateway of pure vibration, suspended in the great inner sky between the heart's silence and the soul's throne at the spiritual eye. And I say to you, seeker of the light, this center is not about verbal expression, not about communication or speaking your truth, as the world so often repeats it, is about purification, about refinement, about resonance with the eternal sound, the Aum, the primal vibration of spirit which underlies all creation and calls the soul back to its original frequency. When you enter this space in deep meditation, when the breath no longer pants for the world and the ego no longer whispers its needs, you do not feel the desire to speak, you feel the presence of the sound that is speaking everything into being, the silent thunder of God vibrating in the ether, within you, around you, through every atom and beyond all form. To activate this center rightly is not to talk more, but to become quiet enough to hear the Aum, to merge your will into that vibration, to refine your mind until even your thoughts begin to vibrate with devotion, until every word you speak becomes sacred not because of content, but because it arises from alignment with the infinite. The throat is not merely a passage for sound, it is a tuning chamber for consciousness. When misused, it becomes the outlet for the ego's noise, for opinions, for judgments, for endless streams of outer-directed energy that weaken the inner current. But when rightly awakened, Vishuddha becomes the holy portal of mantra, of sacred utterance, of silence saturated with presence, of the inner ear turning to the sound of Aum echoing within the spine. When the breath rises naturally to this center, you will feel it not as a pressure or force, but as a lightness, as though your body were beginning to dissolve into sound. And in that rising, when the attention is pure, when the lower centers have been transcended through surrender and not stimulation, you will find your gaze drawn upward, not outward into space, but inward into the point between the eyebrows, into the Ajna chakra, the sixth center, the seat of divine command, the Christ center, the lotus of indigo light, whose petals are not visible to physical eyes but appear in sacred stillness as the radiant star, the inner sun, the eye of intuition through which the soul perceives the world as God sees it without distortion, without separation, without fear. The ajna is not intuition in the modern sense of vague knowing or emotional instinct. It is the command post of the soul, where perception and will are fused into single-pointed awareness, where duality ends and unity begins, where the soul no longer reacts, but directs not from ego, but from alignment with the divine blueprint of truth. When you focus your gaze here in meditation, softly, without strain, without tension, you are not merely concentrating, you are entering a doorway. And when the energy of the breath, lifted by devotion and stillness, rises to meet that inner eye, it is as if the spine becomes a golden river, flowing upward into the light, and the soul begins to remember, not as concept but as experience, that it was never the body, never the emotion, never the thought, but always the light looking through the body, the silence behind the sound, the eternal self resting in God. You will see colors, yes rings of blue, golden halos, white stars, but do not fixate on them, for even these are thresholds, not destinations. The eye is not the goal, it is the gate. And when the soul bows here, when the breath enters this sanctuary with reverence and quiet awe, then the chakras below it still themselves in perfect submission, and the consciousness is drawn upward as though by an invisible magnet, not by force, but by surrender. And now we ascend to the final lotus, not to activate it, but to understand why it must never be chased, only received. And now, dear soul, as we rise from the luminous throne of the spiritual eye, we come to the highest blossom, the Sahasrara crown chakra, the thousand-petaled lotus that rests above the physical head, but dwells within the etheric body as the sublime receptacle of divine grace. And I tell you with the utmost reverence, this is not a chakra to be activated, manipulated, or opened by will, by breath, or by force. It is not a portal to be stormed or a summit to be claimed, for the Sahasrara is not conquered, it is surrendered into. It does not respond to seeking, it receives only the presence of that which no longer seeks, the soul that has risen through purification and longing again, until all longing dissolves into holy stillness, and only God remains. You see, the illusion of the crown is the illusion of arrival. The belief that if I can reach this place, if I can stimulate this energy, if I can feel some profound sensation at the top of my head, then I will be enlightened, then I will be fulfilled, then I will become something higher than I am. But I tell you, beloved, there is no becoming in the light of the crown, only being. There is no grasping in the silence of God's presence, only melting. There is no final achievement, only eternal remembrance. The Sahasrara does not activate like the lower center sit blooms, and it does not bloom from pressure below, but from the natural culmination of inner stillness, the magnetic draw of soul awareness lifted entirely out of body identification and absorbed upward in the current of grace that has no beginning and no end. This crown, this lotus, is not a chakra in the same way as the other sit, is the silent altar above the altar, the receiver of divine light, the spiritual canopy under which the soul is wed once again to the infinite. It is not the cause of union, it is the consequence. It cannot be stormed through technique or pride. It opens only when the lower lights have been harmonized, when the spine has become a flute, hollowed of ego, when the breath has become prayer, and when the eye has become the star, through which all duality disappears. The Sahasrara does not ask, "What have you done?" It asks, "What have you surrendered?" And if the answer is everything, then the petals unfold, one by one, not in time but in eternity, and the light that was always above descends, not to crown a self, but to dissolve it. The Bhagavad Gita does not speak of the crown as a goal, it speaks of union. The yogi who draws his life force upward through the six centers and fixes his attention between the eyebrows reaches the highest state of realization. Even here, the sacred scriptures point not to the crown, but to the eye, for the crown is not the gate, is the receiver. The kingdom of God is within, not above. And yet, when the soul rises into that silence beyond all structure, the crown becomes the place where the breath dissolves, where the ego dies its quiet death, where the light that has always waited finally enters, because the soul has finally become empty enough to receive. Let me give you this final image. The flower does not open because it tries. It opens when the root forgets itself, when the water is clear, when the sun rises, when the petals are ready to fall into the sky. So too with you. You do not reach the crown by chasing it. You arrive by forgetting the chase. You ascend not by effort, but by alignment, not by pushing upward, but by letting go of everything that pulls you down. And so we seal the ascent not with a burst of fireworks, not with a cry of victory, but with silence, with stillness, with awe. The journey is not over, for the soul is eternal, but the veil is lifting. And now, my beloved, having walked with me through the sacred ascent not of flesh, but of awareness, not of effort, but of surrender, we arrive not at a conclusion, but at a beginning, not at the edge of a destination, but at the doorway of your return to the divine remembrance from which all life flows. And I say to you with all the love of the infinite echoing through my soul, do not let this knowledge remain dormant in your intellect. Do not let this journey remain confined to the poetry of words or the enchantment of ideas. Make it breath, make it posture, make it your rising and your resting and your every hour in between. For the chakras are not here to be studied, but to be entered, not to be known, but to be lived. And the spine must become your altar, and the breath your incense, and the gaze your sacred vow. So now, sit with men not in pretense, but in presence as it upright, not as the body demanding attention, but as the soul remembering its throne, with the spine as the golden scepter of your inner kingdom, and the breath as the silent messenger of spirit moving through you, not by your will but by divine intelligence. And I ask you to breathe, not as you usually docile and unconscious, but to breathe as the temple breathes, as the infinite breathes, as one who has remembered what was hidden within them all along. Inhale now slowly from the base of the spine, feeling the life force rise through the sacred centers like a river flowing upward into the sky. And as the current reaches the point between the eyebrows, pause not with tension, but with sacred attention, then exhale gently into the stillness above the crown, not as release, but as return. Do this again now. Inhale from the root to the brow. Hold in awareness. Exhale into Godan with each breath. Do not seek sensation, seek stillness. Do not chase energy. Become aligned with light. Do not imagine, remember. This breath is not your sit, is the infinite breathing through you. This body is not your sit, is the temple through which the soul serves its final vow. This spine is not your sit, is the ancient ladder given to every child of God to climb beyond the stars and into the formless brilliance of spirit itself. And now, say this with Mano, with your mouth only, but with your cells, with your stillness, with your gaze held at the spiritual eye, and with your whole being surrendered into the sacred sound of these truths. I do not chase energy, I align with light. I rise not by doing, but by remembering. My spine is the ladder, my breath is the prayer, my gaze is the doorway. Repeat it again and again, not to convince yourself, but to install the memory you lost, to resurrect the identity the world made you forget, to seal this journey not with pride, but with holy humility. For the path of the chakras is not a conquest, it is a covenant. A sacred vow between you and your Creator that you will no longer live from the outermost layer of existence, but from the center, from the flame, from the still point within where God awaits every breath of your returning. Every morning, before the body rises fully into the day, return, Haresit, breathe, align. Every evening, before the breath dissolves into sleep, return again, withdraw, ascend, remember. This is your true spiritual practice. Note, 1,000 techniques, but a single awareness flowing upward like light through the hollow reed of the spine, offered in devotion, crowned in stillness. Let the 7 lights become one flame. Let the 1,000 petals fold into the center. Let your identity dissolve into radiance. May your body become the temple. May your breath become the priest. May your gaze become the gate. And now, we fall silent not as absence, but as presence, not as ending, but as the beginning of the soul's eternal vow. And now, beloved soul, we enter the chamber beyond speech, the sanctuary beyond description, the space where the tongue falls silent and the breath becomes the only prayer needed, where the mind bows low and the heart opens, not as a feeling but as a field of stillness. And you, having climbed the inner ladder through devotion and breath and remembrance, stand not as a seeker but as the temple itself, not as a body chasing light but as the light remembering its own reflection. I ask nothing more of you now, except this, to let go of names, let go of forms, let go of striving, let go of your image of what you should become, and instead sit, breathe, and enter. Close your eyes. Let the spine be upright, like a golden staff connecting heaven and earth. Let the breath be calm, effortless, sacred. Let your gaze rest gently at the spiritual eye, and let your soul rest nowhere but in God. In this final space, there are no instructions. There is only surrender, no climbing, only falling inward. No thoughts to arrange, only awareness to receive. And now, with no movement, with no effort, I invite you to witness not with the outer eyes, but with the inner knowing as each sacred center vibrates once more within your spine, not as myth, but as living presence, root seed of God. Feel it, the beginning, the silent coil, the divine serpent sleeping in peace, no fear, only potential. Sacral river of will. A still stream, not flowing outward in desire, but inward in discipline. The water made pure again. Navel fire of discipline. The flame does not devour, it refines. It does not scream, it glows. It does not burn, it blesses. Heart mirror of stillness. Not a fluttering ache, not a swell of emotion, but a perfect glass in which the soul sees only God. Throat gate of sound. Om vibrates here, eternal and unborn, not to be spoken, but to be heard in silence. I command of soul. A radiant star, a golden halo, the place where all duality dissolves into perfect clarity. Crown light receiving itself. Not a goal, not a peak, only the flower of God unfolding, because there is nothing left to hold. Let this mantra now repeat within you, not from your lips, but from the eternal knowing in your spine. Whisper gently through the breath of the infinite. Each breath raises me. Each thought aligns me. Each day prepares me for miracles. Again. Each breath raises me. Each thought aligns me. Each day prepares me for miracles. And again. Each breath raises me. Each thought aligns me. Each day prepares me for miracles. Do not end this silence. Do not rise too quickly from this temple. Let it extend into your life. Let it follow you into your morning routine, into your quiet moments, into your decisions, into your gaze upon others. Let this inner rising become your vow. For the 7 are not steps. They are one light ascending. Remain here. Remain here. Remain here. When you were born, beloved soul, the heavens formed a perfect pattern, and the stars arranged themselves in a sacred dance above your head, each planet aligning with a unique resonance, each house casting its light and shadow across the vast stage of your destiny. But let me tell you something with the fullness of divine remembrance. You are not your sun sign, nor your rising, nor the placement of Saturn in your chart. You are not your horoscope. You are not the labels that astrologers have given you, no matter how mystical they sound. You are the immortal soul who chose, in God's presence, to enter this life at a specific moment, under a specific sky, to fulfill a mission of divine awakening. That chart you carry is not your identity, it is your invitation. It is not your definition, it is your classroom. So many souls walk the earth with their heads bowed beneath the weight of their birth charts. They say, I am a Capricorn, so I must be distant. Or, my Venus is afflicted, so I cannot find love. Or, my 12th house is heavy, so I am doomed to loneliness and spiritual confusion. My child, such thinking is bondage disguised as wisdom. You are not here to live as a forecast. You are here to remember that you are beyond prediction. You are the living light of God, temporarily clothed in tendencies and lessons, but not bound by them. Your chart may describe the weather of your karma, but you are not the weather. You are the sky behind it. The great danger of astrology, when misused, is that it gives the ego a crown it does not deserve. It turns personality into prophecy. It replaces soul effort with star excuses. But listen to me closely now. Your soul did not come here to repeat what has been. It came to transcend. The birth chart is a wheel, but the wheel was meant to be risen above. The moment you believe the chart is who you are, you have fallen from the center into the rim. The moment you say, this is just how I am, you have stopped remembering what you are. Do not fear the chart, and do not worship it. Gaze upon it as you would a sacred map left by your own divine hand. A map of karma and curriculum, not a prison, not a verdict. You were never sent here to be defined by the stars. You were sent here to defeat them not through rebellion, but through mastery. Not by denying your tendencies, but by divinizing them. So now, let me walk with you. Let me take your hand not to explain the mechanics of astrology, but to show you the hidden flame behind the signs. Let me show you what your chart really says, not about your personality, but about your purpose, not about your traits, but about your training. For what your chart truly reveals is the soul's whispered promise. I will awaken. I will rise. I will return to the one who sent me. My beloved, let us now shine the light of divine discrimination upon the next velone that clings tightly to the mind and whispers with great authority, you are this, you are that. This planet made you do it. That aspect is your flaw. This transit is your fate. But I ask you now to listen not with your intellect, but with your soul. For the truth I shall share is not of human theory, but of cosmic vision. The ego, ever subtle in its quest for permanence, has found in astrology a most clever disguise. It uses the language of the stars not to liberate you, but to imprison you in a golden cage of spiritual vocabulary. It takes the chart which was meant as a sacred Gideon, turns it into a mirror of its own delusion. It says, this is who I am, and clutches tightly to its moon sign, its rising sign, its squares and trines, as if they were divine commandments, when in truth they are but the ripples of past tendencies, the residue of former choices, echoing through the present incarnation, not destiny, but data, not identity, but instruction. What is astrology truly when viewed from the soul? It is a karmic imprint, yes, a pattern, that reflects the vibrations into which the soul chose to descend. But reflection is not creation. Your chart does not create your reality, it reveals the arena in which your soul has chosen to train. It does not tell you who you are, it shows you what remains to be purified, what must be overcome, what must be offered back to the divine in order for the radiant light of spirit to shine without distortion. And yet the ego, which fears annihilation more than it fears bondage, clings even to spiritual systems in order to perpetuate its illusion of separateness. It says, I am this Mars, I am this Saturn, and in doing so, it forgets the one great truth that every planet bows to. The soul is not its tendencies, it is the chooser behind them. Do not use your chart as a shield. Do not use your aspects as a justification. Do not use your retrogrades as an apology for spiritual laziness. Astrology becomes Maya when it ceases to serve as a ladder and becomes a label. The stars were not made to bind you, they were made to serve as signs along the way, to remind you, to reflect back to you the inner choices that must be made consciously and with reverence. When you begin to use astrology to explain away your failings, to delay your devotion, to predict your peace or your suffering without looking to your own daily discipline, then you are not reading the chart with the soul's eye, you are reading it through the lens of self-deception. I once said, and I say it again, the wise man defeats his planet, who masters the self, masters the stars. What does this mean? It means that the soul, anchored in God, rises above all planetary influence. It does not deny the forces at play, but it is not defined by them. Just as a seasoned sailor learns to read the winds without surrendering the helm, so the yogi reads the chart without becoming its victim. You are not here to be subject to the dance of the heavens, you are here to join it, to learn its rhythm, to use its pull, not to drown in the tide but to surf the wave into divine realization. Look at your chart then, not as a portrait, but as a battlefield. Not as a personality map, but as a karmic compass. See where the ego hides behind excuses. See where your nature has become habit. See where your energy resists refinement. And then, with breath anchored at the spiritual eye and spine straight like the inner rod of divine memory, declare silently, I am not the chart, I am the soul that chose it. Let us go deeper now. Let us look beyond the wheel entirely, beyond the planets and the signs and the rising and the moon, and behold the one who chose to be born under that particular sky, not to become it, but to transcend it. Let us walk into the soul's light now. Ah, my beloved, let us now cast aside the veil entirely, and gaze not upon the stars above, nor the chart below, but into the eternal flame of the soul itself. For while the chart is a circle, and the sky is a dome, and the planets are ever in motion, the soul is still, eternal, radiant with the memory of its divine origin, untouched by time, unmarked by transits, unaltered by retrograde alignments, for it was before the stars were formed, and it shall remain when the galaxies collapse back into the womb of the infinite. You are not a Leo or a Pisces or a Virgo or a child of Saturn or an aspect of Mars. You are the immortal, changeless, ever-conscious Atman, the divine spark of God, born not once but countless times, carrying from life to life the invisible ledger of karma, the hidden memory of lessons left unfinished, loves unpurified, powers misused or neglected. And it is from that karmic storehouse and not from chance or fate that your next birth is chosen, your hour selected, your place on the wheel set with mathematical precision, not by a mechanical universe, but by a loving intelligence that knows what you need to grow, to evolve, to remember. Your soul did not fall helplessly into a random chart, it selected it, with the full knowledge of its past and with a deep longing to return to its source. You chose your birth moment the way a traveler chooses the best moment to set sail, not when the sea is calm and easy, but when the tide, though perhaps stormy, will carry you precisely where your soul must go. That difficult Saturn placement you dread, that afflicted moon, that challenging 12th house, these are not punishments, but sacred appointments. They are teachers your soul hired before you arrived. And the joyful alignments, the gifts, the grand trines, the sweet blessings, they too were earned, cultivated in previous incarnations, waiting now to flower as you grow more rooted in truth. Karma, not chaos, determines the chart. And yet karma is not destined, yet is the soil. And the soul, through right living, right meditation, right effort, and surrender can change the harvest of that soil. A thorn bush grows in rocky ground if left untended, but the same ground, when cleared and cultivated, may yield a garden of lilies. Your birth chart reflects the tendencies of your nature, not the verdict of your future. It is not an identity. It is an atmosphere. It is not who you are, it is where you must awaken. Imagine the soul as a divine traveler, entering a new life as one might step into a sacred play. The chart is the script, not the actor. The planets are the staginaut, the light behind the eyes. You are not sent to act your chart, you are sent to rise through it. The sun in your chart is not your identity, it is the force you must spiritualize. The moon is not your soul, it is the emotion you must transcend. The rising sign is not your truth, it is the mask you must purify into transparency. The chart shows what needs to be transformed, not what must define you. And so I say to you now, from the depths of divine memory, I am not what was predicted. I am what God remembers. I am not what was assigned. I am what I choose to become. Repeat these words not as hope, but as a vow. Say them until your spine tingles with recognition. Breathe into them until your heart no longer beats with fear of fate, but with the thunder of freedom. Say them until the stars no longer sit above you, but within you, vibrating not as destiny, but as light, remembering light. You are the self. You are the soul. You are the child of the infinite, who came not to be defined by the chart, but to define what it means to be divinely human. You are the soul that descended in consciousness only to rise again in power. You are the being who chose this chart to heal what was wounded, to love what was feared, to surrender what was prideful, to transform what was hidden, and to rise again in light. Let us now walk together through the chambers of that chart, not to name you, but to free you. Let us move into the stars and turn them into steps. Let us begin to climb. Now let us take the first step onto the sacred spiral of your chart, not as an astrologer seeking to define traits, but as a soul whisperer seeking to awaken remembrance. For the planets, dear one, are not merely distant spheres spinning in the heavens. They are living archetypes, divine intelligences, karmic reflections cast into the sky by the echo of your soul's past choices, and they circle your natal wheel not to restrict you, but to reveal the inner sanctum of your evolution. Each one a cosmic classroom, each one a fire through which the ego must be burned into gold, each one a teacher your soul hired before birth to train you in the language of light. Look to the sun not as a symbol of ego, but as the radiant flame of your soul's intention for this life, the core theme of your incarnation, not in personality but in essence, for the sun is not who you appear to be, it is what you must become more fully conscious of your divine center, your willingness to embody spirit in action, to shine not for attention, but to remind others of their light. And when the sun is placed in challenge or in strength, it is not praising you or punishing you, it is asking, will you rise each day from within, or will you wait for others to shine upon you? And the moon, how often it is misunderstood as merely emotion or mood, but truly, it is the karmic residue of your inner landscape, the habits of feeling and reacting you carry from other lives, the echoes of subconscious impressions still vibrating in your astral body, asking not to be indulged, but to be spiritualized into divine feeling, into calm compassion, into motherly surrender to the higher will. The moon, dear one, is not a reason to justify moodiness. It is a place where you must transform memory into meditation. And what of Mars? That fierce red warrior that many fear or glorified is not aggression. It is your divine energy turned outward or upward, your spiritual courage waiting to be disciplined into willpower, into tapasya, into the sacred heat of divine striving that burns through resistance and doubt. Mars is not here to make you fight. It is here to teach you to conquer your own inertia, to pierce the veil of Maya with the sword of one-pointed devotion. And Saturn, that great karmic taskmaster, so often cursed or misunderstood, he is your most sacred teacher. He is the gatekeeper of truth. He is the Lord of discipline, of delay, of dharma, not because he wishes to withhold joy, but because he wishes to build your inner foundation strong enough to carry the weight of divine consciousness. Where Saturn sits in your chart, there lies your sacred wound, but also your most holy potential. He asks not for despair, he asks for depth. He does not say, you cannot. He says, you must endure until you can. He strips away your illusions until only God remains. Each planet is a mirror, and each mirror shows you where to bow more deeply, where to sit more still, where to love more cleanly, where to remember more faithfully. Venus teaches you that love is not indulgence, but divine magnetism. Mercury reminds you that communication must become communion with the spirit. Jupiter expands what you believe, so believe only in truth. Rahu tempts your ambition, but only so that you may realize that only God satisfies. Ketu severs what you cling to, but only so you may cling to the eternal. And so I say to you now, take a breath, not an ordinary breath, but a sacred one, a conscious one. Inhale deeply through the spine, and say within yourself, I learned from my chart. And now exhale slowly, letting go of all identity, all self-concept, all prediction, and say, I rise beyond my chart. Breathe again and again, not to survive, but to remember. Let the planets remain in motion. You are not here to chase their paths. You are here to align your inner light so perfectly that no planetary pull can sway your peace. No transit can touch your joy. No conjunction can alter your vow to God. You are not the planets. You are the one who placed them as teachers before you. Shall we continue this sacred pilgrimage? Come with me now as we enter the 12-fold wheel, not as astrologers dissecting fate, but as devotees tracing the soul's footprints through the corridors of karma and grace. For these 12 houses, so often mistaken as indicators of worldly events, are in truth 12 sanctuaries of inner training, 12 stations along the spiral path where the soul is asked to refine, to remember, to renounce, and to return, not in circles of repetition, but in upward spirals of transformation. In each house, beloved, is not merely a category of external experience, but a chamber where the divine has hidden an aspect of your own unfolding, a mirror where your deeper response to life must be brought under the command of spirit. The first house, they say, is the house of self, but the true self is not the body, nor the appearance, nor the personality. It is the spark of divine image clothed in human form. And here the soul learns how to wear the costume of incarnation without becoming lost in it. It learns to move through the world without forgetting its origin, to say, I am, not as a separate being, but as an extension of the one, I am, that I am, spirit in expression. The second house, the realm of possessions, of money, of values, not to teach you greed or fear, but to ask, what do you hold dear? What do you cling to? What do you believe gives you worth? The soul placed karma here so you would learn to find security not in what you accumulate, but in what you surrender. Not in the coin, but in the inner gold of self-reliance on God. The third house speaks of communication, of siblings, of ideas, but its true lesson is this. How do you move through your environment with awareness? How do you speak, and from where? Does your voice serve truth or serve ego? Are your thoughts chains or wings? This house asks you to awaken divine discrimination in the details of daily life. In the fourth house, you meet the roots of your home, your ancestry, your private self, and here the soul often hides its oldest fears, its unmet needs, its longing for safety that no earthly home can give. It is here you must dig into the soil of your own heart and plant the stillness of God, making the inner temple your true dwelling, your one refuge. The fifth house, often celebrated for its creativity and romance, is where the soul learns sacred expression, not indulgence, but divine joy. The joy of creating not from need, but from overflow, not from self-seeking, but from soul radiance. It is here you must learn to love as God loves, without grasping, without demand, without forgetting the beloved behind the beloved. The sixth house is service, health, discipline, but deeper still. It is humility, the bowing of the ego to the daily path of purification, the willingness to heal not for pleasure but for alignment, to serve not for approval but for surrender. It is where the soul scrubs the floor of the temple each morning with breath and prayer. And the seventh, the house of partnerships, it is the sacred mirror, where the soul must learn that no one can complete you, but everyone can reveal you. Your spouse, your enemy, your companion, your critical are instruments the soul has summoned to show what remains unhealed, unloved, unseen. You must not worship love, you must become it. In the eighth house, the soul enters the cave of transformation. Here lies the death of illusion, the trials of letting go, the purification of power and sexuality, the surrender of control. It is not a house of fear, it is the sacred passage where you dissolve to rise, where the caterpillar becomes ash before the phoenix can soar. The ninth house, the house of philosophy and higher learning, is where the soul expands beyond dogma into direct experience, where belief must bow to realization. It is where you begin to ask not, "What do I know?" but, "What am I becoming?" Here you step out of religion and into God. The 10th house, the house of career, is not your job, it is your dharma, your outer expression of inner truth, your willingness to shine light into the world's structures. Here the soul must resist false ambition and remember, true success is devotion in action, divine purpose carried into every task. And the 11th community, dreams, networks, here you must ask, what do I seek from others? Where is my loyalty placed? This is the house of spiritual aspiration as well, where the soul dares to dream God-sized dreams, but must also learn to release the outcome. Finally, the 12th house, misunderstood as loss, isolation, hidden enemies, but in truth, it is the threshold. It is the final veil. It is the womb of the infinite and the grave of the ego. Here the soul is stripped bare. Here meditation becomes liberation. Here the self dissolves into the self, and the circle completes, not in repetition, but in return. Now pause. Breathe. Let your breath rise from the base of the spine to the point between the eyebrows, and as you inhale, say within, in every house, I carry the soul. And as you exhale, say, in every house, I remember God. Again and again, not to repeat but to reawaken. You are not your chart. You are not your placements. You are the divine being walking through 12 gates, gathering fragments of light, returning them to the center until the whole sky shines through you. And now, dear soul, let us turn our gaze to the outermost edges of the wheel, not to lose ourselves in new layers of complexity, but to see how even the boundaries of the chart point toward liberation, how the rising sign and the lunar nodes, though often taken as symbols of fate or personality, are in truth markings left by your own hand, as reminders of the path you must walk and the illusions you must shed. For the rising sign is not your true face, but the mask your soul chose to wear for this incarnation, not as deception, but as training, not as limitation, but as the first layer to be refined, polished, and ultimately made transparent, so that the light of the inner self may shine through unobstructed. The ascendant, they say, is how the world sees you, but let me tell you something deeper. It is how your soul agreed to be tested, how your spirit chose to engage with the outer world as a means of inner refinement. If it is fiery, you are to temper passion into purpose. If it is watery, you are to deepen emotion into intuition. If it is airy, you are to move from thought to wisdom. If it is earthy, you are to transform form into service. Whatever it is not a definition, it is a door. It is the entrance to the temple of this life, and you must pass through it, not cling to it. The world may see your rising sign, but God sees your rising soul. And then we arrive at the sacred polarities of the chart, the north and south nodes of the moon, those mystical points where karma crystallizes and destiny unfolds, not as prophecy, but as invitation, not as fixed pathways, but as soul choices made before incarnation, where the south node holds what you have already mastered or misused, and the north node holds what you came to embody anew. The south node is memory, it is familiarity, it is comfort, but it is also inertia. It is the past calling you back into patterns long rehearsed. The north node, by contrast, is discomfort, effort, divine tensionate, is the future self pulling you forward into virtues not yet fully owned. So many seek their soul's mission in the glamour of the north node. And yet I tell you, your mission is not in the goal alone, it is in the movement, in the crossing from south to north, in the daily decisions to leave behind the known identity and walk into the unknown holiness. You are not here to fulfill the north node, you are here to become the type of soul who could live there with humility, with love, with God. It is not about arrival, it is about direction. Understand this, my beloved. The rising sign tells you how to begin. The south node shows you what to let go of. The north node beckons you toward the horizon of divine becoming. But none of these are fixed in stone, they are etched in the sand of spiritual willingness, and the breath of devotion can shift them, realign them, transcend them. The chart may incline, but your soul, rooted in God, anchored in truth, guided by meditation and uplifted by grace, has the power to realign the stars from within. Now close your eyes not in sleep, but in sacred inner turning, and feel your breath not as air but as intention. Inhale through the spine as if you are walking forward on the bridge, from south to north, from past to purpose, from personality to presence. Exhale gently, releasing the old roles, the masks, the identities you have worn in 1,000 lives, whispering inwardly, I walk toward my soul's promise. Inhale again, this time stronger, steadier, rising toward the point between the eyebrows. Exhale slowly and whisper, I leave behind what no longer serves. Again and again. This is your real movement, not across houses, not across signs, but across dimensions of consciousness. The chart does not move you. The soul moves through the chart. And now that we have walked the circle with divine eyes, we must rise from the wheel and return to center. For the soul is not the chart, it is the one who placed it in the sky like a constellation of reminders, not to define your nature, but to awaken your vow. Shall we rise further? Now we come to the threshold of remembrance, the still point at the center of the spinning wheel, the blazing truth that has waited in silence beneath all patterns, all placements, all planetary influences, the truth that you, beloved child of light, are not your astrological chart, not your planetary alignments, not your nodes, signs, or transits, not even your so-called soul mission, as described by the stars. For the soul has no mission but to remember its oneness with the infinite, no task but to burn in divine love until only God remains, no journey but to return from the illusion of separation to the reality of eternal union. And when you finally cease to chase understanding through labels, when you release the grip of the self that clings to systems, identities, and inherited maps, then you will fall inward into the flame that has no origin, the light that has no limit, and you will know beyond belief, beyond intellect, beyond astrological insight, that your soul is older than the constellations, brighter than the sun, freer than the outer sky, and that it is not made of influences, but of essence. I say to you now with the full force of divine truth, let the chart fall from your hands, not in rejection but in surrender. For it has served you well, it has shown you where your tendencies lie, where your attachments have bloomed, where your karma curls like smoke in hidden corners, but now it is time to step beyond the map and become the traveler, to rise from student of stars to child of spirit, to move from being influenced to being anchored, to let the signs become silence, the houses become stillness, the planets become inner prayer. You were not made to orbit, you were made to return. You were not born under a sky to serve the sky, you were born into this life to remember the sky within you, to uncover the inner firmament where God writes, not with planets but with love, not with signs but with vibration, not with predictions but with presence. Say with me now, not as words, but as soul utterance. I am not the stars, I am the light behind them. I am not the chart. I am the choice to rise. Say it again, until it becomes breath, until it becomes pulse, until it becomes knowing. You were not born to be interpreted. You were born to be realized. The moment of your birth was not a coincidence, it was a cry of the soul. Let me return, let me awaken, let me walk again the road back to God. When you look up at the night sky, do not see destiny, see reflection. Do not see power, see metaphor. The stars are beautiful because they remind you of something ancient in yourself, something radiant, something still, something surrendered. But you are not a reflection, you are the source. You are not the moon moved by tides, you are the Son of Spirit, capable of igniting the heavens with remembrance. The apostle once said, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." I say, be ye transformed by the stillness of the soul, by the breath that does not seek meaning in constellations, but meaning in communion, in union, in divine silence. Astrology, when read from the ego, is bondage. Astrology, when read from the soul, is scripture. But your soul needs no scripture, no system, no sky. It needs only surrender. Now take a deep breath, not as a body filling lungs, but as a soul inhaling the memory of its own divinity. Inhale through the base of the spine, Rise through each chakra like light ascending a golden ladder. Reach the brow, hold, exhale into the infinite. Say with me again, I was not born to live as a chart. I was born to live as a child of God. You are free. You are radiant. You are not the sky. You are the witness. You are not the chart. You are the flame. You are not the story. You are the stillness from which it arises and into which it dissolves. Shall we go onward into application? Now that you have seen with clear eyes and breathed with awakened lungs and remembered with the fire of your own inner temple that you are not the chart but the soul that walks through it, let us turn now not to discard the chart, but to use it rightly not as a definition, but as a devotional tool, not as a personality guide, but as a mirror held up to the spirit for the sake of refinement and reverent self-study. For just as a yogi does not worship the spine but polishes it daily through Kriya, so too must the seeker not revere the chart as an idol, but approach it as a daily scripture, not for prediction but for purification, not for identity but for instruction in how to serve God more deeply through the field of karma they have entered. When you wake in the morning, before you reach for coffee, before you check the world's noise, before you re-enter the dream of separateness in stillness, close your eyes and bring to your inner gaze not the complexity of your placements, but the sincerity of your vow, and say to the infinite, show me how to use this life, this body, this breath, this karma, this chart not for self-glory, not for excuse, but for thee alone. And then breathe not automatically, but prayerfully inhaling up through the base of the spine, offering your awareness to each center of light, not to activate them, but to listen to them, to let the breath polish the soul's memory like a lamp in a forgotten room, and then hold the gaze at the spiritual eye, for it is only from this seat of soul consciousness that the chart can be read rightly. Take your chart into your hands, not as a curious seeker, but as a disciple ready to serve. Do not ask, what does this mean about me? Ask instead, what does this ask of me? Do not ask, what do the planets say will happen? Ask, how can I use this alignment to deepen my surrender, sharpen my discernment, soften my heart, and expand my devotion? Each morning, choose one placement tone planet, one house, one node, and do not analyze it, but contemplate it. Ask, if this were a sacred lesson and not a label, what would it require of me today? And then write not as journaling, but as inner dialogue with the divine, writing not to interpret your soul, but to speak to it. Begin your entry with the question, how can I use this karmic energy to love more purely today? Let that become your new astrology, not the movement of Mars, but the movement of mercy, not the trine of Jupiter, but the triangle of body, mind, and spirit aligned in surrender. Approach the birth chart as you would a mandala something to meditate upon, not to define yourself by, but to dissolve the self into. Gaze at it not with the mind, but with the heart, and then close your eyes and see not the planets, but the breath of God moving through the spine, turning tendencies into tools, karma into prayer, past into power, astrology into adoration. Each breath is a transit more sacred than any alignment. Each act of stillness is a reset more powerful than any planetary retrograde. Let the rising sign remind you how you begin the day, but choose to begin from the soul. Let the moon remind you of what you carry, but choose to release it into divine neutrality. Let the sun remind you of your task, but choose to perform it not for self, but as a flame of God. Let your daily practice not be to read more charts, but to read your own reactions as sacred scripture. That is astrology for the yogi no forecast. But freedom. Say now with full awareness, let me not seek identity, but instruction. Inhale, slowly. Feel the spine like a river of light. Exhale deeply. Feel all concepts dissolve into devotion. Again. Let me not seek identity, but instruction. Say it until the chart grows transparent and only the soul remains. Now let us speak of transits, the ever-moving hands of cosmic time, the shifting tides of planetary vibration that sweep through your natal chart like winds across the sea, stirring the waters of experience, agitating the karma of past intentions, and inviting you not to react, but to remember. For the soul that is anchored in God is not thrown by the gusts of Saturn or the tempests of Mars or the eclipses of Rahu, but rides through them like the eternal sailor who trusts the compass of stillness more than the storm of events. who listens more to the calm voice of the spirit within than the urgent chatter of astrological forecasts without, and who knows that no planet can rule the one who has placed his will in the hands of the infinite. Too many seekers, though sincere, fall into the spell of fear when they hear of Saturn returns or Mercury retrogrades or eclipses in their 12th houses, if the planets were enemies, as if the stars were plotting trials, instead of offering invitations into deeper discipline, more precise surrender, more luminous detachment from the fleeting stage of my end. In this confusion they begin to drift, not because the planets have grown stronger, but because their inner anchor has loosened, because their breath has grown shallow, because they have forgotten that it is not the alignment that binds, but the soul's forgetfulness of its own light. Beloved one, listen carefully. A transit cannot touch the one who is anchored in daily meditation, in devotional practice, in surrender to the divine. It may swirl around you, it may rattle the outer branches of your life, but it cannot uproot the one whose spine is firm, whose breath is long, whose gaze is steady at the point between the eyebrows. A retrograde cannot disturb the one who lives from the eternal now. A malefic conjunction cannot destabilize the one whose heart beats with the memory of God. A difficult eclipse cannot eclipse the sun of the soul. When you are rooted in the divine, transits become teachers, not tyrants. They show you where the ego still hides. They reveal what still resists purification. They are not curses, they are catalysts for the next ascent. So I ask you now, do not check your transits before you check your breath. Do not consult the stars before you consult your stillness. Do not ask, what will happen to me? Before asking, what would the soul do now? If you must observe transits, do so from your seat of inner power. Look not for omens, but for opportunities. And most of all, remember this truth I give to you not as theory, but as realization. You are not here to survive the stars, you are here to shine through them. Say with me now, slowly, reverently, the stars incline, but do not bind. Inhale that truth. Let it settle in your spine. With God, I rise through every alignment. Again. With God, I rise through every alignment. Let this become your mantra. Let this become your shield. Let this become your vow. No transit can defeat a soul who remembers why they were born. And you were not born to react to planets. You were born to radiate the infinite. And now, beloved, as we near the end of this sacred journey, not an ending of knowledge, but a re-entry into the timeless beginning, where all truth lives, I say to you, not with persuasion, but with inner authority, not as a teacher, but as a soul who has walked this spiral of lifetimes and returned to speak only this. Your birth chart does not define you. Your karma does not imprison you. Your tendencies do not claim your throne. Your transits do not dictate your peace. And your mission is not hidden in the stars, but written in the breath, written in the spine, written in the sacred contract you made with the infinite when you left the shores of divine memory and entered the shadowed corridors of time to remember, to return, to risen not through prediction or label or celestial machinery, but through the luminous act of divine remembrance, through the still and thunderous choice to know yourself as spirit once more. For what is your soul's mission truly? It is not career. It is not fame. It is not to use your gifts in the language of the world. It is not to perfect a personality or balance elements or master houses. It is not even to heal all karma before you die. Your soul's mission is to remember God in all things, in all people, in all conditions. Your mission is to strip away all that is false, to walk through fire until only gold remains, to gaze into the mirror of the stars and no longer see identity, but reflection, no longer see destiny, but devotion, no longer ask, what is written in my chart, but rather, what is written in my soul? And so I say to you now, with the fullness of love and spiritual fire, do not consult your chart to find yourself. Consult your soul to lose what is not true. Let your chart become a sacred text not of personality, but of purification. Let every aspect point you to surrender. Let every house become a temple. Let every planet become a prayer. Let every question be burned in the furnace of stillness, until only the answer that was always within you remains, I am not my chart, I am the soul that chose this birth to awaken God. Say it with me, now, not from the lips but from the marrow of your being, from the point between the eyebrows, from the thousand-petaled lotus that opens only in surrender. I am not my chart. I am the soul that chose this birth to awaken God. Again, slowly, deeper. I am not my chart. I am the soul that chose this birth to awaken God. Again, until time dissolves and your gaze becomes the sky. Now sit, spine straight, breath soft and holy. Inhale upward from the base of the spine to the Christ center between the eyebrows, the seat of divine command, the throne of the soul. Hold that breath, not tightly, but as you would hold the hand of the beloved gently, reverently, with sacred longing. And now exhale, not to empty, but to return, to release all illusion, to let go of everything you thought you were. Inhale again, and whisper inwardly, I remember. Exhale, and say, I return. Inhale, I remember. Exhale, I return. Let this be your eternal loop, not of karma, but of communion. Let it become your temple. And as you rise now from this sacred sitting, do not rise as someone seeking clarity. Do not rise as someone trying to fulfill a chart. Do not rise as someone defined by signs. Rise as the soul. Rise as the light. Rise as the silence that walked into form and now prepares to walk back into flame. Above you, the stars will still shine. Around you, the planets will still move. But within you, something will have stilled, something will have ignited, something will have bowed, and in that bowing, you will rise. Go now, child of spirit, walk your chart, but do not walk as the chart, walk as the soul that placed it there. You were not born to depend on chemicals for vitality. You were not fashioned from cosmic intelligence only to wither beneath prescriptions and diagnoses. You were not meant to hand over your temple to fear. You, beloved child of the infinite, were born vibrating with divine intelligence, crafted from God's own light, and pulsing with the sacred rhythm of spirit. Your body is not a machine, it is a shrine, a living altar of consciousness, and every cell within it holds the original blueprint of divine wholeness. The healing you seek has never left you. It lives within your very breath. It speaks in silence. It waits in stillness. It shines through the spine like a river of light long forgotten, but never extinguished. This modern age has taught you to fear your body, to distrust its wisdom, to silence its signals, and to hand over its care to outer authorities who treat symptoms but forget the soul. But I say unto you now, the greatest healer lives within you, and that healer is the divine vibration of spirit flowing through every atom of your being. You were not born broken, you became misaligned. You were not born ill, you became disharmonized. But harmony is not lost, it is only hidden beneath restlessness, noise, and spiritual forgetfulness. Your body is not asking for more medicine, it is asking for more remembrance. It is asking you to return to the sacred laws through which it was first created, the laws of vibration, breath, stillness, light, and divine joy. When you obey these laws, healing flows not as miracle, but as natural law fulfilled. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a song to be retuned. Pause now. Breathe deeply, not from habit, but from holiness. Inhale slowly through the nose. Feel the breath descend to the base of the spine. Exhale gently. Whisper inwardly, if God created this body, would He not also place within it the power to heal? Say it again and again, until the fear dissolves and the flame of knowing begins to flicker at the edge of your awareness. You are not weak. You are misdirected. You are not diseased. You are disconnected. And through these, beloved one, before we even speak of these two warnings, I invite you to pause for a moment and feel the very air of the place you are in. Do you notice how certain rooms feel lighter, calmer, more welcoming than others? Do you recall walking into a home, perhaps that of a friend or a stranger, and instantly feeling your heart relax, as if the air itself was blessing you? And have you also felt the opposite, that inexplicable heaviness, a subtle disquiet that makes you want to leave quickly without quite knowing why? This is no accident. The walls, the furniture, the objects in our surroundings silently gather and radiate the vibrations of our thoughts, our emotions, and even the unseen forces we attract. Your home is more than wood, stone, and paint. It is a living extension of your consciousness. I have often said that environment is stronger than willpower. Just as a plant will grow straight and strong in fertile soil, but wither in polluted ground. The soul is nourished or weakened by the vibrations in which it dwells. The home becomes like a mirror, reflecting back to us the quality of our inner life and also magnifying it. If our environment is filled with objects that carry low or discordant vibrations, even if we do not consciously think about them, our subconscious mind receives their influence. Day after day, night after night, this silent influence seeps into our thoughts, our moods, our meditations. Think of your home as a sacred garden. Every object is a seed planted in its soil. Some seeds will grow into fragrant flowers of peace, joy, and divine inspiration. Others will sprout thorns of restlessness, anxiety, or heaviness. And here is the truth that many ignore. It is not only our own energy that dwells in these objects. Everything we bring into our home, whether bought, gifted, or inherited, carries the subtle vibration of its origin. If that vibration is pure and uplifting, it harmonizes with our spiritual aspirations. If it is heavy or impure, it becomes like a shadow hanging in the sunlight of our home, blocking the flow of blessings. Now imagine for a moment that there are only two objects, two very specific types that, once removed, can instantly shift the vibration of your home toward clarity, light, and harmony. Just two, yet they are like great stones in the streambed, diverting the pure flow of divine energy into eddies of stagnation. You may not even realize they are there. You may pass them every day, thinking them harmless. But in the unseen dimension of vibration, they are like slow leaks in the boat of your consciousness, allowing in currents that drain your strength and cloud your joy. I speak to you not to fill your heart with fear, but with hope. When the Master gives a warning, it is never to make you anxious. It is to awaken you to a choice to live in such harmony with divine law that your very dwelling becomes a temple of God's presence. So as we begin this journey together, I ask you to open your mind and heart. Let us walk through the rooms of your spiritual home as well as your physical one. Let us look with new eyes, guided by truth, to see what must remain and what must be gently, lovingly released. And when these two things are gone, you will notice a change not only in the air, not only in your sleep and your meditations, but in the quiet ways blessings begin to flow again. This is the power of aligning your home's vibration with your soul's highest calling. My dear one, before we reveal these two objects, it is important to understand the law that governs why their presence affects you so deeply. Many approach this subject with either superstition or skepticism, but I wish you to see it clearly, without either extreme. The vibration of your home is not an abstract or imaginary concept. It is a living reality that is constantly shaping your thoughts, emotions, and even your spiritual perceptions. Just as a musical instrument must be tuned to produce pure notes, your dwelling must be tuned to receive and radiate the harmonics of divine peace. In my teachings, I have often reminded seekers that the company you keep influences the quality of your consciousness. But company is not only the people you meet, it is also the silent companions of your surroundings, the books, images, symbols, and objects that rest in your space. Each one, whether you notice it or not, emits its own subtle energy. This is why yogis through the ages have kept their living spaces simple, clean, and free of things that disturb the mind or stir up lower vibrations. The ancient rishis understood that environment is a constant teacher. If you fill your home with objects that carry the vibration of violence, fear, greed, or sorrow, then these energies will be your teachers, whispering to your subconscious each day and night. But if you surround yourself with purity, beauty, and symbols of the divine, then your environment itself will help you rise toward God. Philosophically, this truth rests on the law of vibration. Everything in creation is energy in motion, from the densest stone to the subtlest thought. When two vibrations are brought together, they begin to influence each other until they find harmony, either uplifting or lowering the other. This is why it is dangerous to underestimate the effect of what you keep in your home. Your consciousness is like a clear pool of water, but if a drop of muddy water is added daily, over time the whole pool becomes clouded. I do not wish you to think of this teaching as a command born of fear. It is an invitation to freedom. When you understand that certain objects are not merely inanimate, but living with the energy they have absorbed, you become empowered to choose what remains in your sacred space. There is no need for panic, no harsh judgment on the past. Simply recognize that God has given you the gift of discernment, and now you may use it. In the scriptures of India, the home is compared to a lotus pond. The lotus grows in the mud but rises above it, untouched by impurity. Your home too may exist in a world of mixed vibrations, but it can remain a sanctuary of light if you keep its waters clean. The purpose of this message is not to turn you into a collector of fears about what might be harmful. It is to teach you how to feel with spiritual intuition when something is in harmony with your soul and when it is not. This intuition, when developed, becomes your constant guide, far beyond any specific list of warnings. And so, with this understanding, you will now be ready to look at the first of these two objects, not with alarm, but with calm certainty that you have the power to choose what serves your highest good. By seeing the deeper principle behind the warning, you will realize that removing these objects is not simply a physical act. It is a prayer in action, a declaration that your home is a temple, and in this temple, only what is of God may remain. Let us now turn our gaze toward the first of these objects, the one that silently and persistently blocks the free inflow of divine energy into your home. You may pass it every day without so much as a thought, for it often hides under the cloak of decoration, memory, or even usefulness. Yet its vibration is like a shadow cast across a sunny garden, preventing the full warmth of God's blessings from touching the soil of your life. In my years of guiding seekers, I have seen this object take many forms, but its essence is the same. It carries the imprint of suffering, conflict, or destructive energy. It may be a piece of art that depicts violence or despair, a weapon kept for pride or display, a relic of a painful relationship, or even an heirloom imbued with the restless energy of its previous owner's struggles. To the casual eye, it may seem inert, but to the sensitive soul, it radiates a disharmony that unsettles the mind and dims the heart's inner light. You may wonder, can an object truly carry such a burden? My answer, rooted in both yogic science and divine perception, is yes. Just as a cloth takes on the fragrance of the flower it touches, or the stench of the smoke it absorbs, so too does every object absorb the vibrations of the actions, thoughts, and emotions around it. A sword forged in anger will not hum the song of peace. A painting created from despair will not radiate joy. And when such objects are placed in your home, especially in the spaces where you meditate, eat, or rest, they begin to weave their subtle threads into the fabric of your own vibration. Think of your consciousness as a field of sunlight. The thoughts you think, the prayers you offer, the meditations you keep, these are like rays shining outward. But when an object with a heavy or impure vibration sits in your environment, it is as if a dark lens is placed over part of your sun, scattering and dulling its rays. You may still feel moments of joy and clarity, but they will be clouded, and you may not understand why. The truth is that your soul is constantly in dialogue with its surroundings, and every object speaks a silent language. The question is, what is being whispered to you day after day, night after night? Removing such an object is not merely a matter of cleaning your house, it is an act of spiritual hygiene. Just as you would not drink water you know to be tainted, you should not allow the sacred air of your dwelling to be infused with vibrations that do not serve your highest calling. The moment you take such an object in your hands, offer a silent blessing. May you be released from my home and find a place where your vibration causes no harm. If it is appropriate, give it away to be transformed, recycled, or respectfully discarded. And when that space is emptied, fill it not with another random possession, but with something chosen in consciousness, a living plant, a symbol of divine light, a book of sacred wisdom, or simply clean, open space where the soul can breathe. This act may seem simple, yet the shift it brings can be profound. I have seen devotees remove a single such object and notice that their meditation deepens the very next day, that an unexplained heaviness lifts from their mind, that opportunities flow more freely. You see, when you clear the shadow from the sunlight, the garden does not need to be told to grow, it does so naturally, by the law of life. And so, beloved, take this first warning not as a burden, but as a liberation. For in releasing what blocks divine energy, you are making a place where God can dwell more fully in your midst. Now that you have understood the nature of the first object and the invisible weight it casts upon your spiritual environment, let us go deeper into how such an object affects the delicate currents of the mind and soul. You must understand that consciousness is not a fixed, isolated spark. It is in constant motion, exchanging impressions with everything it encounters. When you enter a place of harmony, your mind becomes more peaceful without effort. When you step into a place of disharmony, your thoughts grow restless even if no obvious cause is visible. This is because the subconscious mind is always listening to the language of vibration, even when the conscious mind is occupied elsewhere. When an object saturated with destructive or sorrowful energy resides in your home, its presence operates like a persistent undertone beneath the melody of your daily life. You may be engaged in joyful work, sharing warm moments with loved ones, or sitting in meditation, yet somewhere beneath all this runs a faint, unending hum of disquiet. It is not always enough to be consciously noticed, but it subtly alters the emotional and mental climate in which you live. In yogic science, we know that this influence can cause the life force to stagnate in certain areas of the body, leading over time to fatigue, irritability, or even physical discomfort. You might also find that this subtle disharmony creates a kind of mental drag, making it harder to maintain focus during meditation, more difficult to hold positive thoughts, or easier to fall into old patterns of worry and doubt. Imagine trying to walk through a room where the floor is slightly sticky. You can move forward, but each step requires more effort than it should. This is what happens to the flow of your consciousness when such an object is allowed to remain in your space. It quietly resists the upward pull of the soul. Worse still, if the object has been connected to strong emotions such as anger, greed, grief, or fear, its vibration can serve as a point of attraction for similar energies in the present. You may notice an inexplicable increase in tension within the household, minor arguments arising without cause, or a general sense of heaviness that returns no matter how much you clean or rearrange. The outer order of your home may be perfect, yet the inner atmosphere remains clouded. Beloved, I tell you this not to sow anxiety, but to help you see the deep connection between the physical and the spiritual. The ancient rishis knew that matter and spirit are not separate realms. They interpenetrate and influence each other at every moment. This is why we are called to treat the objects in our homes with as much care as the thoughts in our minds. Both are part of the sacred environment in which the soul either rises toward God or becomes entangled in Maya's illusions. When you identify such an object, do not act with fear or anger toward it. Approach it with compassion, understanding that it has simply absorbed the vibrations to which it has been exposed. Offer a prayer that its energy be neutralized and lifted before you remove it. And then, after its removal, take a few moments to stand in that cleared space, breathing deeply and consciously invite divine light to fill it. This intentional act creates an energetic seal, ensuring that the space remains open for higher vibrations to dwell. Over time, as you become more sensitive to the unseen language of vibration, you will notice these subtle shifts more quickly. The mind will become quieter, the heart lighter, and your home will begin to feel not just like a shelter from the world, but like a sanctuary where every object is a silent companion on your path to God. This is the reward of heeding the first of these warnings. Once you have recognized the influence of the first object and the way it weaves its quiet shadow into the fabric of your daily life, the question naturally arises, what shall take its place? In spiritual living, removal without replacement is seldom complete, for nature abhors a vacuum, and the energies of life will always move to fill what is empty. If we do not consciously choose what enters a newly cleared space, the old vibrations or others of similar kind may find their way back. Therefore, in removing an object that blocks divine energy, we must also plant in its stead something that invites the divine presence more fully into our home. Think of the moment you carry the object away as the closing of one chapter. You have released a burden, but now you are holding open the doorway for grace to walk in. This is the perfect time to choose something that reflects your highest aspirations. A symbol of peace, a portrait of a great master, a simple vase with fresh flowers, a small altar, or even an open, uncluttered space that radiates quiet beauty. The replacement need not be elaborate or costly. In fact, often the most potent objects are those that are simple, natural, and imbued with pure intention. A stone you picked up during a walk when your heart was filled with prayer. A cloth gifted in love by someone whose life radiates peace. A candle that you light only in moments of meditation. These can become living anchors for higher vibrations. When you bring such an uplifting object into the space, treat it with reverence. Before placing it, take a moment to hold it in your hands, close your eyes, and invite God's light to saturate it. Whisper a prayer that it become a vessel for divine blessing, not only for you, but for everyone who enters your home. This conscious infusion of intention transforms a mere physical thing into a spiritual companion. It will begin to radiate a subtle presence, almost like the fragrance of a flower, influencing the atmosphere in a way you and your guests may sense even without words. In this process, you will begin to notice a deeper transformation within yourself. The very act of choosing what is allowed to stay in your home becomes a form of meditation. You will look at your surroundings with new eyes, asking quietly, "Does this help me remember God, or does it distract me from Him? Does it uplift my spirit, or does it stir old restlessness?" In answering these questions, you strengthen your own discrimination. Viveka, the sword of clarity that cuts through Maya's illusions. Many devotees have told me that after removing such a blocking object and consciously replacing it with something sattvic and uplifting, they experienced a sudden freshness in their meditations, as if the very air had been cleansed. Some reported that visitors to their home would pause, look around, and say, "It feels so peaceful here," even without knowing what had changed. This is the silent testimony of a space aligned with the soul's highest vibration. Beloved, remember, your home is not just a shelter for the body, it is a sanctuary for the soul. By removing what is out of harmony and consciously choosing what reflects the divine, you create a living temple, where each object becomes an altar and each corner a silent prayer. In such a place, God's presence does not need to be summoned. It is already there, dwelling quietly, blessing everyone who enters. Now, beloved, let us turn our attention to the second object, perhaps even more subtle, yet equally potent in its influence, a presence in your home that invites restlessness, disharmony, or the slow erosion of peace. Whereas the first object carries a weight that depresses and drains, this second object acts almost like an open channel to energies that are not your own, energies that disrupt the flow of tranquility, and may even subtly pull your mind and heart toward worry, fear, or discord. It may be an item imbued with unresolved conflict, a gift kept out of obligation rather than love, or even a decorative piece that unconsciously reminds you of tension, greed, or attachment. To the untrained eye, it may appear harmless, even beautiful, yet to the sensitive spirit it hums with a vibration that is disharmonious, like a discordant note in an otherwise sweet melody. The principle here is one I have taught repeatedly: like attracts like. Everything in the cosmos resonates with a particular frequency, and your consciousness is constantly responding to and reflecting these vibrations. If your home contains an object whose energy is restless, agitated, or misaligned with your spiritual aspirations, it draws similar energies into your field. You may find that arguments arise more easily, that moods fluctuate for no apparent reason, or that even your own meditative efforts feel heavier and less fruitful. It is as if the very air around you is subtly charged against your peace, and yet it is not your fault, nor is it a moral failing. It is simply the law of vibration at work, silently shaping your inner and outer worlds. Identifying this object requires patience and sensitivity. Watch how you feel in each room, or even beside each item. Notice whether your mind becomes tense, whether your breath quickens subtly, or whether an invisible weight settles over you. Often, the first clue is a sense of unease that has no obvious cause. Pay attention also to recurring experiences. If certain pieces of your home seem to coincide with minor accidents, sleepless nights, or a constant undercurrent of distraction, these may be the silent indicators that the object's vibration is at odds with the higher currents of your life. Once identified, the removal of this object is an act of liberation. Do not approach it with guilt or resentment, but with discernment and reverence. Offer a brief prayer as you hold it, acknowledging the energy it has carried and sending it forward in peace. Whether you choose to give it away, recycle it, or otherwise release it, The key is conscious intention. You are creating a space in which only the energies aligned with God's presence can remain. And as with the first object, replacement is essential. Bring into that space something that uplifts, inspires, and harmonizes with your spiritual goals. Perhaps a symbol of divine light, a sacred text, a plant, or simply the openness of cleared space will suffice. The transformation begins subtly. After this removal, you may notice that your mind feels lighter, that conversations flow more gently, that the energy of your home feels warmer, more receptive, more welcoming. Over time, these shifts accumulate, and the home becomes not only a sanctuary of the body, but a sanctuary of the soul. Here, the energy is no longer fragmented or discordant. It is coherent, uplifting, and supportive of your spiritual journey. This is the reward of following these warnings, not fear, not superstition, but liberation and alignment. After the second object has been carefully identified, consciously removed, and replaced with something that harmonizes with the spirit, we arrive at a sacred threshold, the moment when the home begins to transform from a mere shelter into a living temple. The air itself feels different. It is lighter, clearer, as if the invisible currents that previously moved in restless, discordant patterns are now calm and ordered. You may notice that sunlight entering the windows seems warmer, more golden, or that the corners of the room seem to breathe along with you. This is no imagination. In the subtle dimension, the energies of all objects, intentions, and vibrations coalesce, and when the disruptive elements are removed, harmony naturally radiates. You have not forced this transformation. You have merely cleared the space and aligned it with higher principles. Visualize your home now as a sacred space, each room a hall and a temple of divine consciousness. Every object within it, chosen with awareness, placed with reverence, becomes a silent companion in your spiritual journey. The furniture, the books, the sacred symbols, even the simplest items are now imbued with intention, emitting vibrations that uplift, calm, and guide. In this environment, your mind settles more easily. Meditation deepens without effort. Your conversations flow with gentleness, and even your dreams become clearer and more infused with guidance. It is as though the home itself is participating in your spiritual practice, echoing your devotion and amplifying the presence of God throughout your life. Imagine the difference between a river flowing freely over smooth stones and one obstructed by debris. Before the removal of the two disruptive objects, your home was like that obstructed river energy, churning in confusion, subtle currents fighting one another, blessings partially blocked or diverted. Now, after the careful clearing and conscious replacement, the river flows unhindered. Light, peace, and abundance move through the spaces naturally, touching every corner of your life and every moment of your consciousness. Your home becomes a conduit for divine blessings, a tangible expression of inner purity and spiritual alignment. The beauty of this transformation is that it is both external and internal. As you witness the change in your surroundings, you will find a mirror reflected in your own consciousness. Your thoughts become calmer, your mood steadier, and your capacity for joy, creativity, and compassion expands. The home no longer merely houses your body, it nurtures your soul. It is no longer a place where restlessness accumulates, but a sanctuary where the presence of God can dwell freely, guiding you, protecting you, and illuminating your path. This is the ultimate teaching behind the warnings. It is not simply about removing physical items, it is about creating an environment that supports the ascension of the soul, a sacred landscape where the divine may move without obstruction. When approached with awareness, devotion, and intention, the simple acts of identifying, removing, and replacing these objects become profound spiritual practices, echoing Yogananda's wisdom that the outer environment is inseparable from the inner life. In this harmony, your home becomes not only a shelter but a living expression of grace, and in such a place, every breath, every thought, and every prayer resonates with the sacred vibrations of God's presence. As the home transforms into a living sanctuary, we now turn our attention to the poetic vision of what it truly means to dwell in such a space. A home as a temple, not of stone or wood alone, but of light, vibration, and devotion. Every breath taken within these walls becomes a prayer, every glance a meditation, every act a reflection of the soul's longing for God. In such a space, the ordinary is infused with sacredness, and even the smallest gestures, the placement of a flower on a windowsill, the careful alignment of a sacred book, the opening of a window to let fresh air and sunlight in, are magnified in their spiritual potency. Your home ceases to be merely a residence. It becomes a living altar, echoing your intentions, amplifying your prayers, and reflecting the purity of your consciousness back to you in luminous cycles. Imagine light moving through a newly cleared space. Sunbeams enter, unobstructed, touching surfaces that previously gathered shadows, bringing warmth and clarity to corners that had felt stagnant or heavy. The walls, now resonant with harmonized energy, seem to exhale gently, releasing lingering tensions and creating an invisible lattice of peace that permeates the home. The subtle fragrance of air, whether it is fresh from an open window or softened by the presence of plants, incense, or flowers, carries the vibration of calm and devotion. You can feel it even without a name, a sense that this is a place where the divine moves freely, where energies are uplifted, and where every room encourages the soul to rise above distraction, worry, and restlessness. Consider the transformation from within yourself. As the environment shifts, so too does your inner landscape. Meditation becomes easier, the mind settles more naturally, and the heart opens with less effort. Even mundane activities, cooking, cleaning, walking through the halls, take on a rhythm of reverence, each motion contributing to the spiritual harmony of the household. Guests who enter may feel it intuitively, often remarking on a sense of calm or freshness without knowing why. These are the subtle signs that the home has become a living temple, one where the vibrations of God's presence have been invited, recognized, and allowed to permeate everything. Yogananda emphasized that the purpose of such an environment is not merely comfort but transformation. The home, aligned with higher vibration, acts as a spiritual amplifier. Prayers spoken within it carry farther, meditations deepen, and blessings multiply. It becomes a protective cocoon, shielding the inhabitants from subtle disturbances and attracting energies that foster health, harmony, prosperity, and spiritual insight. This is not magic, nor is it superstition. It is the natural unfolding of divine law. The law of vibration operates constantly, shaping consciousness and experience. By clearing objects that obstruct this flow and consciously filling your space with purity and intention, you create the conditions in which grace can manifest openly. Beloved, understand that this poetic vision is both literal and symbolic. Your home is a mirror of your inner life. By cultivating the outer space with care, attention, and reverence, you are also cultivating the inner space of your consciousness. As the temple of your home is purified, so too is the temple of your soul. And in this dual sanctification, outer and inner, the divine can dwell most fully, guiding, nurturing, and illuminating every step of your journey. Let us now immerse ourselves in the living words of Paramahansa Yogananda regarding the subtle yet profound power of our surroundings. For in his teachings, he reveals that environment is not merely a backdrop to life, but a co-creator of consciousness itself. Yogananda explained that the vibrations of objects, images, and even the arrangement of space affect the subtle body, the mind, emotions, and life force, shaping the quality of our thoughts, moods, and spiritual receptivity. To live in a home where energies are scattered or heavy is to invite restlessness and distraction. To dwell in a space harmonized with the laws of vibration is to open the heart and mind to inspiration, divine guidance, and inner stillness. This understanding is not mystical speculation, it is the yogic science of the subtle, teaching that the world around you is alive with energy and that your home can either nourish or hinder the awakening of your soul. Imagine, if you will, walking into a room where every item radiates calm, every surface seems to breathe, and the very air carries the resonance of peace. This is the living temple Yogananda often described, a home that not only shelters the body but cultivates the spirit. Each object in such a space, whether it is a sacred image, a book of wisdom, or even a simple plant, is chosen consciously, imbued with intention, and maintained with reverence. The effect is cumulative, subtle at first, like the first light of dawn touching the horizon, gradually illuminating the entire landscape of life. In such a home, meditation deepens effortlessly, prayer feels more intimate, and the rhythms of daily life are suffused with a quiet grace that draws both the inhabitants and visitors into a higher vibration. Yogananda emphasized that the care of our environment is inseparable from the care of the inner self. A cluttered, discordant home reflects unaddressed thoughts, lingering emotional patterns, or unresolved karmic influences. By contrast, a purified, harmonious space mirrors a purified mind and a heart aligned with divine will. In this way, the removal of objects that block energy is not simply housekeeping. It is an act of spiritual purification, a tangible step toward inner clarity. As we consciously arrange our surroundings to support peace, devotion, and balance, we co-create with the divine, allowing our home to become a living instrument that amplifies prayer, meditation, and divine inspiration. Furthermore, Yogananda taught that such attentiveness to environment nurtures subtle perception. When the physical space aligns with higher vibration, the soul becomes more sensitive to divine guidance, the subtleties of intuition, and the gentle promptings of angels. Even small gestures, such as placing an object in sunlight, arranging sacred symbols with mindfulness, or simply leaving a space clear and open, influence the mind and heart profoundly. These acts, though external, are also internal. They train the consciousness to recognize and invite higher frequencies, preparing the soul to receive blessings that might otherwise be overlooked or blocked by disharmonious energy. Thus, the message is clear. A home is never neutral. It is a living, breathing field of vibration that interacts with your consciousness at every moment. By removing objects that carry lower vibrations and consciously filling your space with purity, light, and intention, you are actively participating in the creation of an environment that supports spiritual growth. Yogananda's words guide us to see that every act of cleaning, arranging, and blessing is itself a meditation, a prayer, and a declaration that the divine may dwell freely among us. Through such care, the home becomes a sacred vessel in which the energy of God can flow unimpeded, nurturing both body and soul in profound and lasting ways. Now, beloved, let us enter the final stage of this sacred practice, the call to presence, the act of blessing the home after the removal of the disruptive energies and the conscious placement of objects aligned with divine vibration. This is not merely a ritual or a symbolic gesture. It is the culmination of awareness, intention, and devotion, a moment in which the outer space and inner consciousness are synchronized in the recognition of God's presence. When you stand within the home you have purified, close your eyes, and breathe deeply. Feel that every surface, every corner, every object you have intentionally chosen is now resonating in harmony with the eternal. It is here, in this quiet communion, that the true blessing unfolds. Imagine holding your hands over a room and envisioning a luminous light descending from above, filling every space with the radiance of divine presence. This light touches not only the physical objects but the invisible currents of energy, stabilizing and elevating the vibration throughout the home. The walls, the floor, the furniture, the sacred symbols all respond to this light, becoming conduits of peace, protection, and grace. As you move through each room in mindfulness, offer a silent invocation. May this space be purified. May it radiate peace, harmony, and divine love. May all who dwell here be blessed, protected, and guided toward the highest good. Speak it from the heart, slowly, deliberately, as if the words themselves were carrying the very essence of the divine into each corner. In these moments of blessing, let your attention also turn inward. Sense how your own energy has shifted as a result of the removals and replacements you have enacted. Notice the quiet settling of the mind, the lightness in the chest, the sense of calm that may rise even amidst the ordinary sounds of daily life. The home is now not only a reflection of inner transformation, but an active participant in the ongoing evolution of your consciousness. Your meditation, your prayer, your attention, these have coalesced with the vibration of the purified home, and together they form a dynamic field of spiritual energy that sustains and protects you. Pause here for a few deep breaths, allowing the energy to settle fully. Visualize the divine light expanding beyond the walls of your home, touching the environment around it, extending protection to the lives and consciousness of all who enter. Imagine this light connecting with the energies of the universe, weaving your dwelling into the sacred fabric of creation. In this practice, you are not only blessing your own life, but contributing to a larger network of divine harmony. This is the true power of conscious, devotional care for the home, the recognition that every act, every object, every word has a resonance that reaches far beyond what the eye can see. Finally, give thanks. Gratitude is the seal of divine interaction, the acknowledgement that God has heard, that the home is now a sanctuary, and that your efforts are aligned with cosmic law. Offer a silent thank you from the depth of your heart, feeling the resonance of that gratitude amplify the blessing you have invoked. This is the culmination of the practice: a home cleansed and harmonized, a consciousness elevated, and a heart open to receive the continuous flow of divine grace. In such a space, you may notice subtle changes. Immediately, a sense of lightness, peace, and clarity. And over time, a more profound transformation that touches every aspect of life within and around you. As you remain in this sacred moment of blessing, allow yourself to feel the subtle currents of energy that now move freely throughout your home. The invisible threads of vibration, once tangled and heavy, have been untied and smoothed, and in their stead, the radiant flow of divine light courses effortlessly through every corner. Notice how even the smallest objects, the ones you may have chosen with care, begin to hum with a presence that is not simply imagined, but felt in the stillness of your awareness. This is the unmistakable sign of alignment. When your inner consciousness and the outer environment resonate in harmony, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, and the home becomes not merely a place to live, but a living, breathing sanctuary of grace. In this luminous state, the act of blessing becomes an intimate dialogue between you and the infinite. Each silent word, each deliberate breath, is a current carrying intention into the subtle planes, where the divine presence gathers and amplifies it. Visualize these currents spiraling gently around the rooms, entering every drawer, corner, and nook, touching each surface with purity and peace. As you move through the home, let your attention be fully aware of this sacred flow, imagining it sweeping away lingering shadows, past disturbances, or stagnant energies, leaving only the light of God's presence in every space. The very walls, floors, and objects resonate now, not with the residual vibrations of past worry or discord, but with the elevated frequency of divine harmony. Take a moment to feel the effect upon your own energy. In the process of clearing, replacing, and blessing, your consciousness has been recalibrated. You may notice a lightness in your chest, a clarity in your thoughts, and a subtle expansion in your awareness. This is not an illusion. It is the natural consequence of harmonizing the external and internal environment, aligning the body, mind, and home with the universal currents of energy. Every meditation you undertake in this space, every prayer whispered, every step you take, will now be conducted in an atmosphere charged with the resonance of higher vibration. Your spiritual practice, previously hindered by unseen discord, is now magnified by the purity and intentionality of the environment. As this awareness deepens, you may sense an almost tangible presence, the quiet but powerful feeling that unseen companions are near. Angels, guides, and the subtle forces of the universe respond to the clarity and devotion you have cultivated. The act of blessing your home has not only altered the physical space, but has awakened a field of consciousness that extends beyond the walls themselves, touching all who enter, influencing all energies nearby, and creating a sanctuary where divine grace can flow uninterrupted. In this way, your home becomes a focal point of spiritual energy, a beacon radiating calm, clarity, and protection. Finally, understand that this is not a one-time act, but the beginning of a living practice. The blessings invoked, the vibrations purified, and the alignment achieved are sustained through awareness, care, and reverence. Each day as you enter your home, take a conscious moment to acknowledge its sacredness. Feel gratitude for the light that now fills it. Honor the objects that support your spiritual path, and remain vigilant to maintain harmony. In doing so, you transform not only the home itself, but also your relationship to life, your consciousness, and the unfolding of God's plan in your world. As you continue to dwell in the awareness of your newly harmonized space, it is essential to understand the deeper spiritual significance of maintaining this sanctity. A home that has been consciously cleared and blessed is not merely a static object. It is a living extension of your consciousness, a reflection of the clarity and devotion cultivated within your own mind and heart. Every thought, every action, every breath that occurs within these walls interacts with the energies you have set into motion. Just as the sun's rays illuminate the earth and animate life, so too does the vibration of your attention and devotion infuse the home with spiritual life. It becomes a dynamic, responsive field where the presence of the divine is felt not occasionally, but as a continuous, nurturing flow that touches every aspect of your experience. Imagine, beloved, that each room in your home is a cell within a larger organism of consciousness. If even a single cell is burdened with discordant energy, it affects the entire body, subtly influencing moods, thoughts, and actions. When you remove objects that block divine energy, when you replace them with items that radiate purity and intention, and when you bless the entire space, you are essentially performing a sacred operation on this living organism, restoring its natural harmony and allowing it to function optimally. The effects are subtle at first, but over time, they accumulate, leading to a home that not only shelters, but actively nurtures the spiritual evolution of all who dwell within it. This process also mirrors the inner journey of the soul. As you clear your outer environment, you are prompted to clear the inner environment of the mind and heart. Old resentments, lingering anxieties, and subconscious attachments are reflected in the physical space, and as you consciously remove and replace objects with sacred intent, the mind begins to mirror this clarity. Meditation becomes deeper, prayer more focused, and even daily interactions carry a newfound grace. The home becomes a feedback loop of spiritual growth. As the space lifts in vibration, so does the consciousness of those who inhabit it, and as their consciousness rises, it further elevates the space. Yogananda taught that the subtle and the physical are intertwined, that what is done in one dimension inevitably influences the other. Thus, blessing and purifying your home is not merely about aesthetics or comfort, it is a profound act of aligning your entire life with the currents of divine law. It is a declaration that you are willing to co-create with the unseen forces, to welcome God's presence actively into the very fabric of your daily existence. When approached with reverence and mindfulness, this act becomes a continual practice of devotion, one that transforms the ordinary rhythm of domestic life into a living, breathing prayer, resonating with peace, clarity, and spiritual illumination. As you walk through each room, observe how the energies now respond. The air may feel lighter, the light brighter, and even the quietest corners may seem to hum with presence. Your steps are no longer merely functional. They are part of a sacred dance with the divine. Every movement, every glance, every inhalation participates in the ongoing blessing you have invoked. In this environment, your home becomes not simply a physical shelter, but a sanctuary where the soul may rest, grow, and commune with God unhindered. This is the fruition of the careful work of removing what blocks and inviting what uplifts. It is a living testament to the truth that when we align the outer with the inner, the divine responds, filling both space and spirit with eternal light. As the sanctuary of your home is established through the conscious removal of obstructive energies and the infusion of divine vibration, we now approach the culmination of this sacred practice, the direct invocation of God's presence through blessing. This step is both a confirmation of your effort and a bridge between the purified space and the ongoing flow of grace that will permeate it continuously. To bless your home is to consciously acknowledge that it is no longer merely a collection of walls, furniture, and objects, but a living vessel for the energy of the divine. Each breath you take, each word you whisper, becomes a sacred current that travels through the subtle atmosphere, touching every corner, infusing every object with light, and anchoring the vibration of peace, protection, and prosperity throughout your dwelling. Begin this practice by standing or sitting quietly at the center of your home. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, allowing the mind to settle and the heart to open. Visualize a brilliant, golden light descending from above, not as a distant phenomenon, but as an intimate, tangible presence that fills the very air you breathe. Let this light move through the walls, across the floors, and into every object, carrying with it the infinite love and protection of God. Feel as though the light penetrates not only the physical structures, but also the subtle energies, the spaces between atoms, and the unseen currents that have shaped the vibrations of your home for decades. This visualization is not a mere exercise. It is the conscious engagement of your consciousness with divine power, a declaration that this place is now aligned with the highest energies of creation. As you mentally or verbally offer your blessing, speak words of intention with clarity and devotion. May this home be filled with divine light and love. May all who dwell here be protected, nourished, and guided toward their highest good. May every object, every corner, and every breath resonate with the vibration of God's peace. Speak these words slowly, deliberately, and with the full awareness that the divine hears and responds not to the speed or eloquence of your speech, but to the sincerity and vibration behind it. Allow your heart to feel the truth of what you are invoking. Do not rush. Each word should sink into the very fabric of the space, anchoring the blessing as an invisible lattice of grace that will continue to radiate long after the act of blessing is complete. Pause now and feel the home respond. Sense the subtle shift, the lightness, the expansion of energy, the quiet hum that seems to move through walls and furniture, knitting everything into a harmonious whole. Notice your own inner state, how your chest may feel open, your thoughts more serene, your heart more aligned with God's love. This is the tangible reward of intentional blessing. The space becomes a living participant in your spiritual journey, and your consciousness is elevated by the harmonization of outer and inner energies. The act is both literal and symbolic. By blessing the home, you bless your own consciousness, and by blessing your consciousness, you reinforce the sanctity of the space around you. Finally, allow this moment to conclude in gratitude. Feel deep within your heart the awareness that God has heard, that divine presence now dwells freely, and that the home will continue to radiate peace, protection, and abundance. Acknowledge the sacredness of what has been done, and let a quiet sense of joy and reverence settle over the space. Know that this is not a one-time event, but the beginning of a continuous practice. Every thought, every action, and every breath you take in this purified environment now carries the imprint of divine blessing. Your home has become a living temple, a sanctuary where the soul, body, and mind are supported, guided, and nurtured, and where the divine may dwell without obstruction, illuminating every corner with eternal light and love. Now, beloved, as we enter the final moments of this sacred guidance, let us pause in the silent communion of presence, allowing the fullness of God's light to settle completely into every corner of the home and into every cell of your being. This is the point where the physical act of cleaning, clearing, and replacing objects intersects seamlessly with the higher act of consciousness, where your awareness becomes a living channel through which divine energy flows freely. As you breathe, feel the subtle currents of vibration moving in perfect harmony, knitting together the outer and inner dimensions of your life into a tapestry of balance, peace, and divine order. In this stillness, you are not only a witness to transformation, you are an active participant in the co-creation of a sacred environment that nourishes your soul every moment you dwell within it. Envision the home as a radiant temple of light, each room a hall of devotion, each object a silent teacher, each corner infused with the presence of God. Even the air feels luminous, vibrating softly with clarity and serenity. This is the home after which all other spaces are measured, a sanctuary where the energies of the past have been released, where subtle disharmonies have been neutralized, and where the frequency of divine love permeates everything. In this sacred setting, your meditations deepen effortlessly, prayers resonate with greater potency, and the quiet, subtle guidance of the unseen world becomes more palpable. You may feel the gentle presence of angels, or the whisper of intuitive insight guiding your thoughts, your decisions, and even the flow of your daily activities. As you remain in this state of attunement, notice the interplay between your inner consciousness and the external environment. The walls, the floors, the sacred objects, everything responds to your intention and devotion. This reciprocity is the living law of vibration. What you invest in space, thought, and emotion returns amplified, blessing you in ways both seen and unseen. Each breath you take nourishes the temple you have created, and each thought aligned with love and purity reinforces the divine architecture of your home. You are no longer merely living in a place. You are dwelling within a sacred field where every vibration sings the song of God's presence, where every corner reflects the serenity and grace of aligned consciousness. Pause now and extend this blessing beyond the physical boundaries of the home. Imagine the light radiating outward, touching the environment around you, your neighborhood, and even those who may enter your space. Your intentional blessing acts like a seed, planting subtle harmonies that ripple through unseen currents, touching lives, uplifting energies, and creating a sanctuary that benefits all who encounter it. In this way, your devotion multiplies, spreading beyond what the eye can see, yet remaining grounded in the concrete space you have transformed with care and reverence. Finally, settle into gratitude. Feel the profound joy that arises from knowing your home has become a living sanctuary, that your consciousness is aligned with divine law, and that your actions have co-created a space in which God may dwell freely. Let the heart swell with awareness that you have not merely cleared objects, but you have also aligned yourself with the subtle currents of creation, inviting continuous flow, protection, and blessing. In this quiet communion, every breath, every thought, every step becomes an offering, and your home is no longer a neutral backdrop to life. It is now a living, breathing temple, radiating light, harmony, and the eternal presence of God. And now, beloved, let us complete this sacred journey with the final invocation, the guided blessing that unites your intention, your awareness, and your home into one coherent field of divine presence. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, feel the home itself responding to your attention. Each object, each surface, each space is ready to receive the vibration of God's light. Picture a soft golden radiance descending from above, filling the ceiling and walls, pooling around your feet, wrapping every corner of your rooms in a subtle, shimmering cloak of divine protection. Feel it penetrate not just the physical environment, but the subtle dimensions where thought, emotion, and memory reside. This light is alive. It moves. It breathes. It responds to the intensity of your devotion, and it flows with perfect harmony through every element of the space. As you hold this vision, speak silently or aloud a prayer of blessing in words that arise naturally from your heart. May this home be filled with God's light. May every object and every corner radiate peace, harmony, and divine love. May all who dwell here or enter here be uplifted, guided, and protected. May this space become a sanctuary where the soul, mind, and heart are nourished and aligned with the eternal presence of God. Repeat these words with intention, letting each syllable vibrate with sincerity, letting your consciousness flow into the room as if your very being were the source of the radiance itself. This is not a ritual of formality. It is a living act of devotion, an energetic sealing that ensures the sacredness of the environment is anchored in both the seen and unseen dimensions. Pause for a few moments of silence after your invocation. Let the vibrations settle. Feel them as currents moving through the home, weaving together the energies of your family, yourself, and all the objects around you into a coherent field of divine presence. Notice how your own body and mind feel lighter, more aligned, more receptive to peace and clarity. This stillness is not passive. It is a profound interaction, a dialogue between your soul and the consciousness of the space, now harmonized with God's will. Every breath during this pause extends the blessing, amplifying its effect, allowing the subtle layers of vibration to organize and elevate into a resonance of divine grace. Finally, take a moment to offer gratitude. Feel the fullness of appreciation in your heart for the presence of God, for the opportunity to consciously align your environment, and for the subtle energies that have responded to your care. Gratitude is the seal of spiritual law. It completes the cycle of giving and receiving, of intention and response. As you express thanks, know that this practice does not end with this moment. The blessing you have invoked continues to flow through the home and through your consciousness, guiding, protecting, and elevating every moment that follows. You have not only transformed your space but deepened your connection to the divine, creating a sacred home that resonates with eternal light, love, and peace. As you remain in this luminous stillness, beloved, feel how the energies of your home have become inseparable from the energies of your own consciousness. This is the profound teaching that Paramahansa Yogananda so often emphasized. The outer environment is not merely a backdrop to spiritual life, but an extension of the inner temple of the soul. Each breath you take now carries with it a resonance that touches the walls, the objects, the floor, and the air, weaving your consciousness into a unified field with the sacred vibration of the space. In this harmony, prayer, meditation, and ordinary activity alike become channels through which divine energy can flow uninterrupted. Every movement in your home, every step, every gesture, every breath is now infused with consciousness aligned to God. Notice how subtle yet transformative this alignment is. The mind, previously distracted by the weight of invisible, discordant currents, now rests more easily. Thoughts no longer spiral aimlessly. They move with clarity and focus, attuned to higher truths. Emotions, once stirred by the hidden residue of unbalanced energies, settle into serenity and equilibrium. Even the physical body, attuned as it is to the subtle vibrations around it, feels lighter, freer, as if each cell has been bathed in the quiet radiance of divine presence. The home, in turn, responds. The very air carries a calmness. The spaces seem to expand with light, and a soft, continuous undercurrent of peace hums quietly through every corner. This is the living, breathing result of intentional purification, blessing, and harmonization, a tangible manifestation of invisible spiritual law. Furthermore, understand that the subtle effects of this practice do not remain isolated to the immediate environment. The blessings and vibrations you have invited into your home extend outward, influencing your family, guests, and even the energy of the surrounding neighborhood. Divine law is impartial and expansive. The harmony you cultivate in one sacred space reverberates far beyond the walls, touching consciousness in ways often unseen but deeply felt. Angels, guides, and divine forces, drawn to the refined vibration of the purified home, become increasingly present, walking silently among the rooms, watching, protecting, and guiding the hearts and minds of all who dwell within. The home becomes a nexus of spiritual protection and guidance, where divine attention is concentrated and freely available. Finally, beloved, know that this transformation is not static but dynamic. The home will continue to respond to your consciousness. The higher your attention and devotion, the more luminous the space becomes. The act of removing what blocks divine energy and replacing it with objects chosen in consciousness is merely the beginning of an ongoing relationship between the inner and outer worlds. Every day, as you breathe, speak, meditate, or move through the rooms, you participate in the living energy of this sacred space, amplifying its blessing and harmonizing it further. The home is no longer simply a dwelling. It is a sanctuary of light, a living testament to your devotion, and a continual source of divine inspiration, peace, and protection for your soul. Now, as we approach the conclusion of this sacred guidance, let us dwell together in the awareness that the home you have purified, blessed, and harmonized is more than a collection of objects and walls. It is a living extension of the divine itself. Every room, every corner, every object that now remains carries not only its own vibration, but also the imprint of your consciousness, your attention, and your devotion. This union of inner intention and outer environment creates a dynamic field of spiritual energy, where the subtle and the material converge, where the mundane becomes sacred, and where the divine presence can move freely, unobstructed by the obstacles of lower vibration. In this space, even ordinary daily acts, walking through the rooms, cooking a meal, reading, or resting become infused with the resonance of holiness. Each movement a silent prayer, and each breath a meditation. Imagine now that the home itself is alive with the quiet hum of grace. The air vibrates with the energy of alignment. The light that enters through the windows seems more luminous, touching surfaces with a gentle glow. The furniture, objects, and sacred symbols resonate subtly with the intention you have invested in them. This is not imagination. Beloved, it is the law of vibration at work, and you have set it in motion through your awareness, your choices, and your devotion. Each corner that was once shadowed by discord or heaviness now radiates peace. The floors, the walls, even the empty spaces carry a quiet sanctity, reinforcing the spiritual practices of those who dwell within. And as you move through this home, you will sense a profound shift not only in the environment, but within yourself, as your consciousness resonates with the elevated frequencies you have created. Furthermore, understand that this blessing and alignment extend beyond the immediate physical environment. The energy of your home, now harmonized, becomes a beacon of light and protection that radiates outward, subtly influencing the vibrational field of the neighborhood, touching visitors, and even stabilizing the subtle currents of energy around you. The divine, recognizing the harmony you have cultivated, flows more freely into your life, guiding, supporting, and uplifting the hearts and minds of all who enter. Angels and spiritual guardians, drawn to the purity of this space, may now move unseen, providing protection, insight, and subtle guidance, ensuring that the home functions not only as a shelter of the body, but as a sanctuary of the soul. In the practice of conscious blessing, the act is never complete. It is a continuous cycle of awareness, attention, and devotion. Each day, as you inhabit this purified space, breathe consciously, speak with intention, meditate, and offer prayers. You reinforce the field of divine presence. Every act of care, every moment of mindful attention, further harmonizes the energies, deepening the sense of sanctity and the tangible presence of God. Your home is no longer simply a dwelling, it is a living temple, a dynamic expression of your devotion, and a sanctuary in which the soul, mind, and heart can flourish in the fullness of divine light and protection. In this space, you are not only safe but elevated, not only nurtured but inspired, and not only present but deeply aligned with the eternal currents of God's love. As we conclude this sacred practice, beloved, let us pause to integrate the full awareness of what has been accomplished and to offer a final blessing that solidifies the alignment of your home, your consciousness, and the divine presence that now permeates every corner. Stand or sit in stillness within the central heart of your home and feel the entirety of the space around you as if it were alive with its own breath. Sense the subtle currents of energy, the vibrations of your attention, the purified resonance of objects and air, and allow your own consciousness to expand outward, merging with the light that now fills every wall, floor, and ceiling. In this moment, understand that the act of blessing is not a ritual confined to words, but a living expression of your devotion, a conscious alignment of intention, thought, and energy that creates a sanctuary where God may dwell freely and without obstruction. Now, imagine the presence of angels and guides quietly approaching, drawn by the clarity, purity, and devotion of the space. They do not arrive with fanfare or spectacle. They arrive as currents of light, as gentle warmth, as a subtle harmony that fills the heart with reassurance, protection, and guidance. Visualize these beings moving through every room, resting in every corner, and radiating a quiet vigilance over all who live, work, and rest within this sacred environment. Their presence is not limited to physical perception. It is a vibrational truth that can be felt through the subtle senses, through the soft deepening of breath, the stilling of thoughts, and the sense of expansive calm that seems to saturate the very atmosphere. Allow yourself to feel the immensity of their care, the constancy of their attention, and the tenderness with which they uphold the space you have sanctified. As you extend your consciousness in this way, speak the final blessing aloud or silently, letting each word flow with deliberate intention and heartfelt devotion. May this home remain a sanctuary of divine light. May peace, harmony, and love saturate every object, every corner, and every breath within. May all who enter here be uplifted, guided, and protected. May God's presence dwell uninterrupted, blessing all who live, work, and rest in this space. May the energy of this home support the spiritual growth, clarity, and joy of every soul within it. Repeat these words slowly, feeling the vibration of your heart infuse them with power, and imagine them radiating outward in concentric circles, extending protection, guidance, and divine grace into every inch of your home. Finally, beloved, close this practice with gratitude. Feel the profound awareness that you have co-created a living sanctuary, that the energies of your home now resonate with alignment, and that your consciousness has been elevated alongside the space you inhabit. Recognize that this is not a temporary effect, but a continuous relationship between you, your home, and the divine, one that will grow stronger as long as you maintain mindfulness, devotion, and reverence. Each breath you take, each step you move through this blessed environment carries the imprint of this sacred work, reinforcing the home as a sanctuary of light, a temple of peace, and a channel for ongoing grace, protection, and divine inspiration. In this awareness, know that your home has become more than a dwelling. It is now a living testament to your devotion, a place where body, mind, and spirit are nurtured, and where the presence of God may flourish eternally. Beloved, as we now dwell in the culmination of this sacred practice, let us allow the awareness of continuity to settle deeply within us. The blessings you have invoked, the vibrations you have purified, and the divine presence you have welcomed into your home do not remain static. They continue to move, evolve, and influence every moment that follows. Just as the morning sun rises daily, spreading light through the world, the spiritual energy cultivated through this intentional work radiates continuously, not only affecting your immediate surroundings, but also extending outward into the lives of all who enter your sacred space. This is the profound truth Yogananda revealed. The effects of consciousness and intention are dynamic, extending beyond what is immediately visible, touching the subtle currents of the unseen realms, and shaping the quality of life in ways that are both tangible and ethereal. Feel now, if you can, the subtle harmonies resonating throughout the rooms, the gentle flow of light threading through every corner, every surface, and every object that remains. Sense the air vibrating softly with divine presence, as if each molecule has been touched by grace. This is not imagination. It is the natural unfolding of the law of vibration, a principle that teaches that every energy you cultivate through conscious intention will continue to act upon the environment and your consciousness long after the initial act. The home is now a living organism of energy, responding to your devotion, reflecting your alignment, and sustaining the subtle balance of mind, heart, and spirit. Extend this awareness further, beloved, to the people within your home, whether they be family, guests, or even those who may pass through briefly. Imagine that every soul is enveloped by the subtle radiance that now fills the space. Each thought, each intention, each breath they take resonates in harmony with the purified energy. Here, the home acts not merely as a shelter, but as a teacher, a guide, and a sanctuary of subtle protection, continually supporting the inhabitants in their spiritual practice and in their capacity to maintain peace, clarity, and divine alignment throughout their day. Let us also consider the continuity of personal practice within this space. The conscious attention, devotion, and prayer that initiated this transformation must now be reinforced through mindful living. Every step, every movement, every intentional act contributes to the ongoing resonance of the home. A simple gesture, lighting a candle, offering a prayer, arranging a sacred object, or breathing with awareness sustains and amplifies the energy. Over time, these acts create a powerful synergy. The environment nourishes the consciousness, and the consciousness, in turn, maintains and elevates the environment. This cyclical interaction is the living embodiment of Yogananda's teaching that the outer and inner worlds are inseparable, and that the practice of spiritual care extends beyond meditation into the very rhythm of daily life. Finally, rest in the assurance, beloved, that your home, now aligned, continues to act as a living temple, a sanctuary of divine light. It is a sacred field in which the soul can flourish, in which grace can flow unimpeded, and in which every thought, breath, and action is supported by higher vibrations. In this space, your spiritual practices deepen naturally, your awareness expands, and the presence of God, quiet, subtle, unwavering, resides fully, guiding, protecting, and illuminating every moment. You are no longer merely inhabiting a house. You are dwelling within a sanctuary of divine alignment, a living testament to the sacred interplay between conscious intention, environment, and the eternal presence of God. And now, beloved, as we draw to the close of this sacred teaching, let us reflect upon the profound unity of the inner and outer, the visible and invisible, the material and spiritual, that you have co-created within your home. Every action you have taken, the careful removal of objects whose vibrations block the flow of divine energy, the conscious replacement of those objects with symbols of purity and reverence, and the blessing of each room with mindful intention has formed a tapestry of alignment that extends far beyond the physical walls. Your consciousness, now attuned to this environment, resonates with the same vibrations you have invited into the space, creating a feedback loop in which inner peace and outer harmony reinforce each other continuously. This is the living law that Yogananda revealed. When mind, heart, and environment are synchronized with divine intention, the home ceases to be a passive shelter and becomes an active participant in the unfolding of your spiritual evolution. Picture this, beloved. The sunlight streams into the rooms, not merely illuminating physical objects, but energizing the space with clarity and warmth. Every corner, every surface, every object responds to the subtle currents of your intention, radiating peace, protection, and divine love. The air itself seems to vibrate with calmness, and even the faintest movement, whether the soft rustle of a curtain, the turning of a page, or the gentle footfall across the floor, becomes infused with the rhythm of divine grace. The home has been transformed into a living sanctuary where the energies of God flow freely and where every breath you take harmonizes with the stillness and radiance that now pervades the space. In this sanctified environment, the effects ripple outward in ways that are both subtle and profound. Guests who enter may feel a sense of calm or upliftment without understanding why, their hearts and minds subtly influenced by the elevated vibrations. Your own consciousness is strengthened, and your daily practices, meditation, prayer, study, or simple presence are magnified by the harmonious field you have cultivated. The angels and guides that have always been near now move more freely within this energetic structure, their presence more tangible, their guidance more perceptible. The home has become a conduit, a channel through which divine energy can flow uninterrupted, blessing not only those who dwell within, but also all who enter or pass through the space. Let this also serve as a reminder that the sacredness of the home is sustained through continual mindfulness and devotion. It is not enough to remove the blockages and perform the blessing once. The spiritual resonance you have created must be nurtured through ongoing awareness. Every thought, every word, every act contributes to maintaining the harmony of the space. Simple rituals, lighting a candle with intention, offering a short prayer upon entering a room, meditating in the presence of objects chosen in consciousness, reinforce the sacred vibrations and keep the home aligned with divine purpose. By engaging in these practices, you ensure that the home remains a sanctuary, a living temple where God's presence dwells perpetually. Finally, rest in the deep assurance that your efforts have borne fruit. Your home is no longer a neutral space. It is a living witness to your devotion, a sanctuary that protects, nurtures, and elevates your consciousness. Every breath, every step, every thought within this blessed environment is supported by the subtle energies you have aligned. In this sacred harmony, you are not merely living, you are participating in the divine flow, co-creating a home that radiates peace, clarity, and grace. Here, the law of vibration, the teachings of Yogananda, and the blessings of God converge, producing a space where body, mind, and soul are held in perfect equilibrium, and where the divine may dwell without obstruction, eternally illuminating every corner with love, light, and spiritual presence. Beloved, now we arrive at the culmination of this sacred practice, the call to presence and the home blessing. This is the moment when all your conscious effort, all the care you have taken in clearing and harmonizing your environment, and all the devotion you have poured into this space converge into a living, a dynamic field of divine light. Stand or sit quietly in the center of your home, close your eyes, and take a deep, conscious breath. Feel your body, your heart, and your mind aligning with the vibration you have cultivated in your surroundings. As you inhale, Draw in the subtle energy of the purified space. As you exhale, release any remaining residue of tension, fear, or distraction. With each breath, sense that your home and your consciousness are merging in a single, radiant resonance. Now visualize the light of God descending from the infinite into your dwelling. See it first touching the ceiling, then moving gently down the walls, filling the rooms with a luminous presence that is both tangible and serene. Picture the floors absorbing this light and reflecting it upward, while every object in the home, every chair, table, book, plant, and sacred symbol radiates with this divine vibration. Allow yourself to feel the subtle currents of energy moving freely, touching every corner, harmonizing every shadow, and establishing a field of calm, protection, and divine presence. This light is not static. It is alive, flowing in currents that interact with your awareness, amplifying the purity, peace, and blessings that now inhabit the home. With this vision in mind, speak a blessing aloud or silently from your heart. May this home be filled with God's eternal light. May every corner, every object, and every breath within these walls resonate with peace, clarity, and divine love. May all who dwell here or enter here be uplifted, guided, and protected. May the presence of God permeate this sanctuary continuously, blessing body, mind, and spirit. May the energies here be aligned with the highest vibration, and may every act performed within this space serve the divine purpose. Repeat these words with deliberate attention, feeling each syllable infuse the space with the intention behind it. The power of this blessing does not come from the length or complexity of the words, but from the sincerity, devotion, and consciousness with which they are offered. After speaking, sit or stand in silence for a few moments, allowing the vibrations to settle fully throughout the home. Feel how your own consciousness has merged with the energy of the space, how your presence amplifies the blessing, and how the home itself now participates in your spiritual practice. Sense the subtle guidance of angels, the gentle protection of divine forces, and the quiet assurance that all who inhabit this home are embraced by the light and grace you have invoked. Every breath you take, every step you make, every thought you cultivate within these walls will now resonate with the sanctity and purity of this moment. Finally, close this practice with gratitude. Offer thanks to God for hearing your invocation, for dwelling within the space you have consecrated, and for the blessings that are now flowing unobstructed. Feel the deep, sustaining joy that comes from knowing your home has become a living temple, a sanctuary where peace, harmony, and divine energy flow freely, supporting your spiritual growth and nurturing your soul. This is the culmination of mindful intention, conscious action, and devotion. The completion of a practice that transforms a simple dwelling into a sacred abode, where God's presence is tangible, enduring, and profoundly nourishing.